The girl asks the boy why he bought them, and her friend sighs, wanting someone to finally say directly what they want from them. Nervously, he thinks about why he is buying slaves. Then he answers that he wants to rid the world of hunger, but inside he knows his motives are only carnal. He says that the pure white place he saw earlier was a smile of beauty that far surpasses any human. It was a meeting with the goddess, that is, he died. In her lessons, he learned the basics of all web novels. It is reincarnation into another world, which will definitely have an incredible plot, and then he was destined to live the life of a hero in that new world. He believed that after 30 years of solitary life with a faithful companion, he would finally bring happiness to the goddess, and suddenly someone called him. Smiling sweetly, the goddess insults him, calling him an idiot, unpopular, and unable to communicate normally with women, and finally calls him Mr. Virgin. Although it annoys him, the hero realizes he cannot dispute this information. However, thanks to his younger sister, he learned to endure verbal insults. In shock, he asked the woman, "Who are you?" She replied, "I am the one mortals call the goddess." At that moment, the hero learns that he is dead, and immediately curiosity overwhelms him. How did he die? She says in a trembling voice that a student fell from a building right on him, and he died. The blushing goddess says that he felt all the tenderness of the girl's body, and begins to laugh. Feeling this, the boy imagined the scene and thought he wouldn't mind such a touch, but at that moment he didn't even feel her softness. It struck him so much that he gasped. Excited, he rushed to the girl who had fallen to see if she was okay. The goddess gently tells him not to worry and adds that she was saved thanks to this boy's efforts. And then relief washed over him. She explains that he saved a life, so for his good deed he will receive a reward. At that moment, she says she will give him a special chance in his next life. The goddess explains that he will be reincarnated into a world of swords and magic, but he will inhabit someone's body. She explains that in the realm of goddesses, the stream of reincarnations flows incessantly. There is a lack of vessels that bring the matter to completion. He selects and seizes vessels and advance the bodies of locals. She says he will be a young man named Allan, and the main character thinks he has a very cute face. Enthusiastically, he says that this is an excellent chassis with good compatibility with the older Winnie-sama, and that automotive relations are guaranteed. Smiling, the goddess says she is ready to grant the boy's wish and transform him into a young virgin. Seeing this, he thought this goddess herself is a fool because she plays so easily and carelessly as if she is simply breathing. She asks with a sadistic look if the boy wants to die, and he, irritated, says that he said nothing and that she should stop reading his thoughts. The boy asked about possession, as if fearing the truth. Will she merge with Allan's previous personality, and will they end up together, two consciousnesses in one body? Waving it off, she explains that, unfortunately, his personality will cease to exist. Like an inexperienced adventurer raised in an orphanage, he is about to lose his life and his dungeon. She says that as soon as his soul leaves the body, the protagonist will take possession of it. Suddenly understood something. The hero anxiously asks if Allan will die in the dungeon or eventually become food for monsters, because he does not want to inhabit the body of his zombie. And the goddess softly says that it is precisely because of this that she grants the right to be a transmigrant. She reveals that she will give him the ability to regenerate. The boy asks in surprise if this is the same thing that helps recover from injuries and bodily harm. She asked if he now understands, and added that everything will work as soon as the boy's soul ends up in Allan's body. At the moment Allan dies, the soul and personality of the young hero will inhabit him, and then the wounds that caused his death will heal. You can't help but wonder if this trick to avoid death completely ignores the rules. After all, this is SSS level and essentially free. He gets wildly excited, imagining that his life will be full of physical relationships with women. Then the goddess says the explanation is over, asks if there are any more questions, but warns that he is ready. And then he thinks, is there any point in retreating at all when a glorious future awaits him ahead? At that moment, everything around him seemed to shine. So he simply becomes the king of the harem. Returning to the present, once the main hero thought exactly this. He is Allan, formerly known as Hyorogari Dashin, and says he has been living in this world of swords and magic for 3 years. But he has almost broken his own chastity record. Bowing his head and crying, he wonders, is this a joke or a nightmare? And there were also some ridiculous miscalculations here. First, exterminating monsters is terribly difficult, and usually victory is simply impossible. And also, he cannot master magic just by gaining levels. The ability to do something incredible truly painfully weighs on him, and his only advantage is regeneration. It is powerful, works quickly, and hardly consumes mana. The third mistake is believing that pain receptors cannot be severed. Who would want to have such a flawed body? Because of this, he will end up completely alone because the fourth mistake is the lack of information about the group. Understand, his only salvation is that he cannot regenerate in front of people. This does not mean that he does not know how to use this ability. This is a power granted by the goddess herself. The healing ability can help heal oneself and is considered a miraculous art, at least that's what the church says. The fifth mistake: the church has full power. As an organization that has accumulated much wealth, power, and lust, it can easily take political power from the empire. So imagine giving up because of all this is a typical move for him, and if it were someone else without his vision, they would truly lose. After a long and exhausting journey, he finally reaches the destination. He is a slave trader. He says that when he had to leave from 85, a brilliant idea came to his mind. He thinks that if he cannot find companions for his adventure, it is because he does not live at his own pace. Understand, if you have a slave, you can give any order, even forbidden ones, and he can also control his mind, serving as a symbol that hides his regeneration. Imagine that this is a flawless plan, and this is the moment when another world begins. Just enter this place. The man gives the boy a simple but very useful piece of advice, and asks which class of slave he desires. In response, he says, "Show all the auctions." Having shown everything, the merchant shook his head. "This is the last one. Did something catch your interest?" The boy was embarrassed and thought it was too expensive. Then decides to show his cleverness and goes on the offensive. Looking around, he asks the trader if there are any others, and he froze in shock. Thinking it over, he realizes he was bluffing and asks himself if it worked, quietly says that it is troubling, and then asks to show everything. And the merchant invites the boy to enter. The main character feels that this place is unpleasant and wonders if the merchant is holding people here. Suddenly he sees two girls. They are held captive, and they are covered with numerous wounds. They look at the boy with a dead, gloomy gaze. He freezes, completely scared and in shock. Interested, he asks who they are. In response, they say, "The one with myth ears is an ancient elf, a representative of the higher race of elves, and the other is an old dwarf, and both are rare species." The man continued, "They would usually be considered slaves." At that moment, the boy interrupted and asked how much it would cost. He decisively said that he would take these two with him. Merchant hesitates, should he do it? But then he decides to sell them because they are no longer needed and have been lying here for a long time. The boy is straining to pull the machine. Here are the two slaves he just bought. He stops, asks what they think about it, and apologizes. He says bitterly that they have still suffered a lot and immediately activates his regeneration. He feels that he can finally show the true value of this ability, healing both cut hands and even the eyes. So they were revived and they became again as they were born. The boy, seeing this, froze in shock and could not understand what was happening. One of the girls whispered confusedly and fearfully that it could not be. Their bodies and eyes are finally normal. A colleague looks at her hand and cannot believe his eyes. A moment ago it was cut. Seeing all this, the main character tenses and decides to wait a bit to calmly think everything over. He wonders who these girls are and sees that you really want to have beautiful slaves, but you did not even expect that they would be so stunning. Suddenly one of them called out to him, "What is your name?" Then he answered that his name was Allan, and at that very moment he spectacularly bit his tongue. He persuades himself to calm down and repeats that this is an unexpected gift. He is happy because his hair in another world really happens. This time he used his ability Leaf to restore the slaves he bought. It turned out that they were two beautiful girls, and so he finally fulfilled the promise given to himself upon reincarnation into this world. Looking at the flower, he wonders, is this what people usually think about? Having bought those two barrels, he gave the last money down to the last kopeck. It turns out that you don't even have money for lodging, and you are forced to live almost under the open sky in a monastery deep in the mountains. Suddenly the goddess appears and sternly says, "Not having a plan is a terrible thing." They answered sharply, just because she is a goddess does not give her the right to intrude into someone's inner monologues. In any case, he understands, a lot has happened that he did not expect. Now he would very much like to hear those words from the two girls who were healed and saved. Because in any case, he still holds his record for preserving chastity. One of the slaves turned out to be an ancient elf named Sylphie, the other a gray-haired gnome Noel. Apparently, such races are rare in this world. However, apart from their names, species, and rarity, everything else is a complete mystery. Reading the letter, he is nervous. No matter how hard he tries, he cannot read or write in the script of this world, and he is sure that the evaluation scroll contains a lot of important information. Suddenly, one of the girls asks what he is doing now. In fact, it is El Sulfi who comes out all embarrassed. He was trembling with nerves and replied that he wanted to grow sweet potatoes, and then asked if she liked such food. With curiosity, she asked if he really intends to grow them. And it flashed through his mind, she would never want to eat sweet potatoes grown by this virgin godfather. Suddenly, he completely changed the subject and asked if she was going for a walk. She was confused by this. In his head, he tries to convince himself they must not be allowed to sleep outdoors or starve while the sweet potatoes ripen and are harvested so they can eat. So he arranges some kind of picnic, lays out food, and sets up a meal. He thinks that if only they could get some meat. He's sure they just want to be hugged. Dovi offers Noel some food and smiles, saying it is very tasty. Without any reaction, the girl thanks him, and he thinks that those two are still quite cautious. After some time being alone, he complains that in such a situation he cannot invite them to sex. And he suddenly realizes now he needs to get to work. So he tells two of them, "Go to the city and wait for me." Looking around, he asked if they wanted something specific to eat so that he could buy it upon returning, but both replied that nothing special. Walking away, he thinks that he doesn't even know what they like to eat, and that even his plan to lure them with food has vanished into smoke. Self is shocked he really went and left two slaves alone. It becomes clear to her both she and Noel have already regained their former strength, and even with slave operations, breaking free from control turns out to be not so difficult. She cannot get rid of the thought, is he testing their loyalty? She does not understand at all what is happening. She has already restored her old strength like an ancient grandfather, and looking into the evaluation scroll, learns that she has mastered advanced tree magic that helps grow plants. With this ability, she can instantly make them sprout and bear fruit, and now he only needs to give the order without even meeting for them to work on their own. Confused, she does not know what he desires, but is grateful that her body has been restored and sees that there is no sign that the boy wants to use their bodies for his ambitions. She wonders if he will do something once he gains their trust. To confirm her suspicions, she follows the boy. Peeking through the windows, she asks if this is a clinic and if this is his job. When Ben sees how he treats the girl, she wonders why he does not use restoration. Because if he did, the church would watch him, and then the boy could get any position and all the honorary titles he desires. Little girl Hill, thank you, Allan. Then Elle focuses again, and it seems that the treatment is finally complete. Allan simply smiles at the little girl and tells her, "Take care of yourself," which piques Alfred's curiosity. Strange, what's wrong with him? He pretends to be a good person, but he buys slaves himself. Yet he still wants nothing from his slaves. Extremely confused, she wonders what Allan ultimately thinks. About 3 months have passed since then. Allan White performs magic, and the plants begin to grow. Knowing nothing, he thoughtfully asks if she wants to become a farmer after all. Thanks to renewal, she will be able to restore her life and work independently without any problems. He replies that he is pleased by her attention. She adds that from a seed of a tree one can immediately harvest a crop. Then she asks if he knows about this, and to demonstrate, she makes one of the plants rapidly grow in a matter of seconds. This completely surprised him. Watching such powerful magic, he does not understand what is happening and, shocked, asks, "What is this and what is the essence of this ability?" He suddenly realizes that she had been hiding this power from him all along, but she insists he must know about it. Because almost certainly it was written in her scroll of grades. At that moment he paused and thought, should he tell the truth? Because he himself said that he is like a baby who cannot read or write, but you cannot just call their master a baby. Because he is too ashamed to be your master, and a man must appear capable in front of a girl. So you decide to lie to both of them. He understands that he will immediately be labeled productive yam diamond, and for some strange reason, this makes him continue to grow yams that grow in a second. Nervous, he whispers to himself, "Calm down and be careful not to be called a pervert." To possibly hide his true worth, he needs to invent a reason that will raise him in their eyes. Magic is a two-sided coin. Whoever holds it, it becomes theirs, poison or medicine. He says that is why he does not force others to use magic, and when the time comes and they want to help, he would like them to voluntarily decide that using magic is important. Moreover, he explains that he can do anything, and when people think so, that is the most powerful chain in the world. After these words, the boy got nervous again and asked himself, who is he to say such things? He says there is no need to force him to use it. And he grabs the whip and thinks that he is very ashamed right now. For Saul, the elf seems to understand nothing and just remains silent. She feels no matter how much he pretends to be a good person and hides, his eyes will still reveal his true feelings. Having figured out the situation, she noticed that his face changed as if there is a deep wound open in his heart, and the words sounded as if he is trying to convince himself that it is not true. He is sure this is not a lie, and he experienced the same. Once having lost himself in search of power, he believed he could do anything. But then something happened that completely changed his view on it, and since then he has been hiding from his own power. The girl thinks that by showing this magic and trying to see people, she is very embarrassed. At this moment, she draws Manuel's attention to herself. She asks, "Can I have a minute?" because she wants to talk about the future. Coming home, Allan froze in shock. He even dropped the basket from his hands. He notices that the most diverse things are planted here, and with curiosity asks, "What is this?" He understands how annoying it is. He, having no body, is overshadowed by someone's primitive skill of planting. Noticing the hero, the kind-hearted elf said she welcomes him, and the boy immediately asked why she used magic. As if feeding him, she asked if he was in a hurry, and even if she used it, she did it of her own free will. The boy recalled that she said so yesterday and doubted, does she want to criticize him? He thinks this is his perfect plan to use modern knowledge to become unbeatable. The elf woman, in turn, thinks he doesn't even use his power and wants to make her eat only sweet potatoes. Then the guy in the comments thanks her and says that she doesn't need to force herself to do anything. He thought this was his moment to shine. Suddenly his face changes. He says he still has something to show. After some time, he decides to invent concrete in this world which does not exist here. With strong buildings, life for people can be improved, and if he succeeds, he will consider it the better way. Just ask what he is doing, nothing more. In the comments, she says she feels like he is doing something and insists that he let her participate. The boy is delighted by her first warm reaction and says that it is wonderful. Finally, she asks what he wants. He says with enthusiasm that he wants to build a new house out of concrete, and as soon as she approaches, the girl curiously asks what concrete is. He says, "For cement to harden, you need water, sand, and gravel," but she interrupted him, "And I don't even know what cement is." The boy quietly and attentively explains to her what cement is. No one asks anymore what will happen next, and the main character says he will teach her. After some time, he finally manages to teach her. No one tells her to just sit and watch. Suddenly, she releases some kind of magic extraction. The heroine suddenly realized she gathered the raw materials in one moment, and that in the end this will overshadow all his contribution. He understands that both she and the elf also have cheating abilities. While he was despairing, the cement was already ready. No will say that she needs the elf's help here. He noticed that lately the two of them have started talking to each other more often. Noelle tells her friend that this man knows nothing about economics and adds that they need to forget about that useless salary and take everything into their own hands. Soon in the city, the hero thoughtfully asks, "What are you supposed to do here?" Noelle eventually becomes a production master. Meanwhile, Sophie becomes a master of plants. Watching them, he wonders why everything turns out just like that. Because he was destined to reincarnate with a cheating ability to become strong and flirt with girls, but at this moment, Allan does not know one thing. He could not even imagine that from the very moment he acquired them, he would begin to be strangely revered as the king of demons. According to the prophecy, the hero would consider him a threat, and a life full of highs and painful falls awaits him. Nell thinks that what Allan said was interesting, and her gnome instincts simply howled. He had never experienced anything like that before. And doing exactly as the main hero advised, it gave results, and it was incredible. He clearly understands that Allan is not just some nobody. And he is not arrogant because of the knowledge he shares. Everything about this guy is wonderful. He thinks that everything he taught her made her so happy. Besides her, Solf also added that it seems they both can rely on Allan. No, I myself agree that they are capable of it. She understands. She wants to take on Allan's burdens on her shoulders. Soon the main character wakes up. Getting up, he notices 2 more monasteries and wonders what does this mean. Suddenly Noelle appears right in front of him. He jumps up in fright. She explains that she took 3 for each, and watching her reaction, the boy understands what she is doing with it. I'm shocked by such indifference. Seeing Anastasia approaching, he said that she was very close, so sweet and like a doll. At that moment, the girl says that she worked for 3. She made a cute face, asking him to gently praise her. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the elf asked Allan, does Wadey just not give her indirect compliments? Suddenly, the main character begins to think. It says that now he understands the two of them are uniting against him. Sophie says that the talk shows are opening for a conversation between 2 beautiful slaves. She says that Allan has neither money nor talent, he only has the ability to research, and her friend says that he is not quite a competent person. No one even says a word that he is also a disgusting otaku and skinny, and Silty says that he is completely inexperienced. Living with him in the same house is very dangerous, so she would be glad to have separate housing and get ready for all the comments that supposedly she will soon start building other houses. The elf sincerely thanks in the comments. If a friend also prepares a place for this pig, he will not complain. No, all the comments for which he should be grateful to both for their kindness. It turned out that it was only the imagination of the main character, and the puzzled Sylphie immediately asks, "What's wrong?" Nervously, he thinks that he has already gone too far, and there is no way back. In their eyes, he himself can compliment Noelle. At that moment, she froze and looked, thinking that she was allowed for someone to stroke her head. Because they needed to get here, she asked not to look like a pervert. He stroked her head and sent a virtual thank you. Having received this gratitude and even a stroke on the head, the girl is silent but smiles. And in shock, the protagonist thinks that his heart is being cleansed. Then the elf wonders if he is talking about her in the comments, that she is jealous. The boy felt that Nola was recovering, so he did not push her away and stood watching this scene, and Sylphie looks surprised they are so close. At that moment, she ordered herself to calm down, firmly repeating that she belongs to the noblest race, the ancient elves, and will never envy any simple head pet. He knows, starting tomorrow, he will increase the number of harvest gatherings and insists that he definitely has no hidden motives. He already considers her irreplaceable. A few more months pass and the alpha, observing the hero, notices. As always, he tends the field himself, as if completely forgetting about their magical treasures. She explains that magic has 5 basic elements: fire, water, wind, metal, and earth. The elf has a developed element and talent for plants, while Noelle is inclined to fire and metal and also skillfully controls earth. Their compatibility is simply unmatched. Covers both food and shelter. They both use magic only when they want to themselves, and Allan has never forced them to do it against their will. She understands that he is blinded by desires and dislikes conflicts, sees a recluse in him. Although he is obsessed with sweet potatoes, he is a full-fledged person. The elf understands. She is sure that the boy has things he wants to do and decides to find out who he really is and what is on his mind. He asked himself, is he really completely alone, and if so, is it really unnecessary to specially choose rare species? She approaches Allan and says she wants to hear it from him, directly asks why he bought the 2 of them and requests to name his true purpose. Nervous, the boy thinks about telling the truth. Between him and those 2, there are only karmic relationships and nothing more. But he realizes he does not want to say this, and no one steps forward to say that she is also interested in this matter. She explains that as a rare species they are priceless, and he only uses them to satisfy his needs, so she asks if there is really nothing he himself wants to do. The boy replies that he needs a lot of food and luxurious housing and asks, are they making fun of him? The boy assures that he is already being taken care of and asks, why is he trying to give food for free as well? They ask why he does not use their potential, and crying replies that otherwise he would be even more miserable. He thinks that those 2 have already brought food to the house and wonders why he should use their capabilities. He realizes if they want to stop and lick his feet, he has no choice. He will have to submit, and he will gladly do it. Watching these 2, he thinks about how to break free from this situation. At that moment, the elf shows rare tree magic and Noel her super fast cleansing magic. Seeing this, the hero understands. These 2 are trying to completely destroy his self-esteem. The main hero understands. If that is their intention, he will do exactly as they asked. Cheer up, you think she will say directly and sincerely what he wants to do with him. A desire for intimacy flashed through his mind, but aloud he said that he wants to start saving the world from hunger. This response made them both blush in confusion. The sincere side of the hero and his embarrassed mind were completely irritated by this answer. He is tormented by the thought of whether he is running away, calling himself a coward, and thinks that if he were not the eldest son, he would have died right there from self-hatred. So if he begins to ponder that answer of the main heroes about how to save the world from hunger, and that this is an ideal worthy of God, and when you analyze everything he has done, it begins to make sense. She realizes the plant that Yami's holds as a treasure is extremely effective. It can be grown on wastelands, and it will feed people again. She also wonders whether that clouded expression on his face is for that distant ideal he imagined. Hearing such an unexpected answer, they both looked at each other. They feel that the heart and ideal of their master lie much further than they could have imagined or hoped. The elf woman felt that she still did not fully trust him. Yet she approaches the boy with a smile on her face. She says that she wants to walk beside him to see what kind of world he strives to create, and if that is his goal, they need to cultivate the land. Seeing this, the boy was terribly confused and agreed, but he only realized that through the newly invented excuse, his heroic story in another world had taken the first step forward. In this world, people are only of 2 kinds, losers and winners, those who lead and those who follow them. Next to those who exploit and those who are exploited, later at school someone suggests trading green peas for their crab. The main character says, "This is my favorite," and the girl replies, "Such a trade is unfair." Smiley, she says she's still growing. Approaching her, the hero said quietly that there would be no mercy for his younger sister. The boy worries whether his younger sister from his past life, Mizuki-chan, is okay, and suddenly realizes that. But in the end, reincarnation turned out not to be so bad. He suddenly notices his thoughts have returned to the past to hide from reality, and he is completely lost in reflection. Then the elf told him, "Cultivate the land, that way you can rid the world of hunger." With a smile, the main heroine says that she is right. Allan thinks that an intellectual, beautiful version of himself should at least somewhat sense his secondary motives, and he wonders if she is going to pretend ignorance and believe these lies. He thinks that in that case he will dance in her palm and that this is only the beginning of the end of his life in another world. You still believe that he can fight and that he has many modern tricks up his sleeve. Since it happened this way, he will take revenge using his knowledge from the modern world. Changing the subject, he suggests, let's make fertilizers. He says that this is what will nourish the soil with the necessary substances for plant growth, and thanks to Sophie's magic they will be able to grow something even on barren land, but maintaining it for a long time is a real challenge. The interested elf says that if they had something like that, they would spend less mana, and it is also worth thinking about how to improve the taste. At that moment, the main character remembers crop rotation. Livestock should be grazed on poor soils, and on low fertility soils wheat should be sown. He explains that by creating pastures for livestock, their number will increase, and the livestock, eating grass, will provide manure for the soil, resulting in a perfect cycle. And Dudu says that women should reconcile and water the land to expand the fields for sowing. Being the elf woman, he realized she was left speechless. And then she begins to cry, thinking that there is no woman in the world who would love such a vain, arrogant, and foolish man as he is. At that very moment, Noelle approaches. Enthralled, she usually asks him to explain all the details and adds that she wants to start immediately. The nervous boy thinks that if things continue like this, his chance to shine will be stolen, and his loss will become someone else's victory. He answered decisively, it is better if he does it himself. But the elf attracts the boy's attention, calls him by name, and approaching the man with a smile, says that throwing tantrums here is not cool. That he wonders why she considers him a spoiled child. Noelle grabs the boy's hand, first asks for details about the fertilizer, and demands an explanation. A smile blooms on his face. Starting to explain, he enthusiastically says that the three most important nutrients plants need are nitrogen, potassium, and phosphoric acid. He says that first you need to buy fish scraps and metan bone meal, then using the magic of elves and sylphs, mix canal oil and soybean oil, and with his super modern knowledge, he tears time and wins a lot of it. Hearing all this, Noelle says it sounds really interesting, and the boy thinks it sounds like a quote from a detective series. She says she will start right now, and a little later the main character, with a naive sparkle in his eyes, asks, will there be tasty soup today? Noelle appears and says that before lunch she has something to show the elf, and Sylphie replies that she was just about to call her. And another comment that she has already made peace with the hose. While mixing the fertilizers, she tried to adjust the proportions and also prepared a little. This impressed them both. While she records the proportions, she notices that due to garlic's reaction, the amount used changes, and that she just needs to experiment and adjust a little. Finishing, she says that with this, the main character's work will be easier. At that moment, the boy wondered, Noelle is engaged in manufacturing, the elf in cultivation, so what is left for him only to complain and keep records? He feels that strange tasks have been dumped on him, but he is convinced this is not a privilege only of those reincarnated in another world with cheat support abilities. He understands that his shine has been stolen again, and all the tasks have been dumped on him. He believes that he is being used and that it is not right to treat him this way. After all, he is a master. At that moment, the elf begins to smile. She thinks that it did not happen again and that she is simply thanking Noelle. After the interview, he calls the two of them and asks, could they conduct cultivation later and have lunch first? Having considered his entire situation, she understands. He is incredibly curious and seeks to satisfy in the world a hunger for something truly worthy of admiration, but looking at his strength, she finds it hard to believe that he is capable of this. When she heard about fertilizers and what is called crop rotation, she was left speechless. At that moment, she comes up with the idea to divide the soil into 4 types. With such people, they could be fed with less exhausting work, and then a revolutionary thought occurs to her. But what impresses her most is how much knowledge is needed to come up with this. Because he fought a fierce battle alone for a long time, trying to bring his ideal into reality. She is convinced that he bought her because the ancient elf freely controls the magic of trees, the one that makes plants grow. And even despite this, he does not force her to work and does not command her with a slave brand. Smiling, she thinks that respecting a slave's independence is very commendable, and aloud says that this person is truly interesting. The boy Curie asks if Sylphie said anything, and she waves it off. Nothing, and gently offers, "Would you like some more soup?" Soon Allan is already ready to go to work. When you use this sanctuary, it seems to remember that Noel created it, and it is very easy to use. And even if many things have turned out in his favor, he is sure this will end the easy path where his strength gave him everything he wished for. His ability to regenerate is a huge and super powerful cheat that can resurrect. And if used skillfully, it can even dig fertile soil to the surface. He thinks that surely Sylphie and Noel will praise him for the good work he is doing now. The boy is truly devoted. He works tirelessly, saying that he wants to be loved and valued, so his struggle continues late into the night. Noel recalls that cultivation happens through restoration, and it's incredible. Watching the main character, she realizes he truly works to end hunger. That is why she bought a manservant. But it is striking that he so wisely and without hesitation trusts both. After all, it would be so easy to use them for his own benefit. She wonders if he really thinks they won't betray him. And she understands that's not all. It turns out Allan never gave them orders. She realizes that the hero wants to walk alongside them toward a distant future where his ideal will be realized, and the wisdom they gain thanks to his efforts is proof of the trust he places in both of them. And in addition, she says that he is a responsible person who is always attentive to their needs. At that moment, Noel swears by the name of the ancient dwarves she will support him. She glances aside and realizes that he probably feels the same, and the elf adds that Allan is simply incredible. Noel nodded and proudly declared, "I am very cool, I have to give it my all." Smiling, she tells herself that she is right and that she also needs to do the same. After all, not for a moment does doubt arise. Allan wants them to act of their own free will, and they must do everything in their power. So to embody his ideals at that moment, two slaves confirm their intentions. Suddenly, a goddess appears and mockingly says that it is simply pathetic and ridiculous after he has been performing such futile tasks, and the boy asks her to stop appearing so often. Suddenly changing the subject, he asks the woman if all goddesses are like her. The woman, laughing, says, "Maybe use a reason for that." The boy thinks about Celise's magic and that it has its own delicate balance, so there is no point in destroying everything at once, and Noel is currently working in her workshop. At that moment, he begins to imagine various romantic scenes with the two of them, and you really want to see it with your own eyes. Suddenly, he notices something very strange. He suddenly realizes when there is nothing to do, why not invent something? Nana approaches and calls Noel, asks if she has a moment now, and adds that she has one favorite request. He explains that if she is busy, he can come later, but the girl says it does not bother her. Showing a piece of paper, she said that she has something she needs to do. In his imagination, she was so close and her hand was so soft. Then he thinks whether she was so absorbed in the project that she completely forgot he was there. Breaking the silence, he notes that all the comments say sizes are not specified. Then the guy says that you forgot to add them and asks if it is possible to make it in such a size to put on the table. The girl says she understood and that doing it is easy, not a problem at all. Returning to the hero, she asks him, why does he want this? This nervous, he begins to answer, saying that he needs it. Happy, he thinks that these games will be very fun, and when they play and enjoy together, he will definitely find more to talk about. The girl says she understood everything and immediately starts the project, and here the question arises. In this case, does Allan become the one who studies the other, or not? Self realizes that Allan and Noel are doing something in the workshop and waits for them. Hearing the word review, she thinks she hears it for the first time, and the guy says it is better to say that they are going to play with it, rather than use it as a thing for entertainment. Hearing this, the elf glanced and understood. It is just entertainment, and she wonders why when Allan's goal is to eradicate hunger in the world and there is no time for games. She understands she needs to ask him about all the details. The elf approached and asked if she could join the two of them. Answering, Allan says yes. Sylphin understands. She believed that some hidden meaning lurked in him. That youthful, love-struck look that Allan usually puts on is just a mask. Because the real Allan, having gone through endless simulations and suffering, gained great power, wisdom, and the ability to deceive others. Full of determination, she thinks she must become a support for his cause and immerse herself in it. At that moment, the elf begins to explain the reversi game. The pieces are strictly divided into black and white. And if they fall exactly like that, the person loses. Seeing this game, the elf in the comments asks in surprise what is so interesting about it. She is convinced that anyone will understand the rules if the game has a variety of strategies and great freedom, and that the time will come when both children and adults will be drawn to this game, turning it into a gold mine. At that moment, he suggests making a bet instead of playing just for fun. The winner can order the loser to do anything and asks what she thinks about it. Nervous, she thinks this is her chance to give orders to the slaves and believes that Allan wants to check whether they understand or not. Alpha Shore is not just playing for easy fun, it is somehow connected with the goal of ending hunger. She is torn between two thoughts: to refuse the bet to show she understands everything or to prove her skills through actions. Allan rename the dwarf's comments tell them both that they need to give their all. And the Alpha agrees with his companion. Noel willingly agrees and says it will be much more fun that way, because they will give all their strength to justify his expectations. The negotiations are over now, they are going to play reversi. At that moment, the elf realizes Allan is the inventor of the game and knows everything about it, and she does not see how they can win. But at that very moment, she notices something very strange. Figuring out the game, she understands this is a much more limited move than it seemed to her. And also, all moves remain in sequence, and this only complicates matters because one can imagine that he himself has trapped himself in such an awkward position. In tears, the main character admits that he lost. The shocked elf asks himself, was this a defeat that he had already included in his plan? From the very beginning, Allan did not even intend to win, and now she sees that these matches are just an excuse to give orders to the master. These game creations are from gold mine, so in this financial hardship we cannot afford simple games. She perfectly understands, ultimately their task is to get money for his cause, and then they need to act like this. After some time, they say that this is a complete victory and promise that we will give the order. Selfie says she would like him to register in the Merchant Guild, and Noelle adds that she wants to have ownership rights to this game. The two are surprised. Is this the answer the main character was waiting for? Relieved, Galt is very happy because you already imagined that they would want to free themselves from slavery. He thought beginners like them are not so easy to defeat after all. He is a veteran in this game. No matter how he looked at it, he is completely broken and yet sincerely thanks them. Seeing Selfie registering in the Merchant Guild, Gold is simply glowing with happiness. He felt the same when he saw Noelle signing up for the alchemist skill. He suddenly realized the fact that both still want to remain his slaves speaks of one thing: they do not really hate him. Galt says that since they are in the imperial capital, they should take a little walk through the shops. Duffy thinks that it seems they had fun, and she wonders if they passed the test successfully. She feels that this is not the end yet, and now the question is how to use this, and also that she has become even a little closer to him. Realizing this closeness, she is filled with incredible happiness. It has already been 2 weeks since Sophie, Noelle, and their hopes were registered in the guild. Meanwhile, Allan is now head over heels for Shuba. Selfie and you are going to play without a rook, bishop, silver general, knights, or spear. They are trying to agree on a game at the simplest difficulty level without time limits and with a rule that allows him to return a piece after its move. Sophie says that this is a great warm-up for her mind, and always directly says about his shoes that he is weak. She says it was a great way to relieve stress and thanks him. The guy, sobbing, admits that he never took it seriously enough for her to notice. Suddenly, Noelle interrupted both of them and said that they would leave soon. She energetically tells the heroes that today they are setting off to the capital again and will return by evening. The lady of the boys says goodbye to them, gently wishing them a good journey. They go out and he sprawls on the bed and thinks he still has plans, he has modern knowledge. He intends to go straight down the path of carnal intimacy. He thinks of slipping alcohol into their drinks, imagining how the burning body and mind will weaken, or simply surrendering to the flow. Suddenly a goddess appears, asks if he is alone again, and the boy replies, "Don't meddle in my fantasies." He explains that the two of them went to the capital, and the goddess notes that this has been happening more often lately. Thinking it over, the boy realizes the goddess is right. He does not see them buying anything, so he asks why they are doing this. Then someone begins to ask themselves, is he abandoning his master just because he has grown cold towards him and went to work far from home? Seeing this, he thought, apparently thanks to magic he managed to cut down their food, but we do not know how to appreciate such a life, and both are already adults. So of course they want to enjoy tasty food and have fun in nice clothes. And here he is like that old man who forces them to play only the games he wants. He feels that they are tired of him after he went alone to the capital. At that moment, he thought with horror, what should he do if they decide to sell themselves in an adult establishment? Running to the sea with tears in his eyes, he shouts that this has no chance of happening, claiming that he didn't even give them anything to survive. To exploit them, first he had to give them a happy life. He decides to think it over and diligently get to work. Approaching the two and calling their names, he says they can ask for anything, then begs them to stay with him. Seeing this, tears well up in the girl's eyes. The boy was in complete shock. Suddenly tears appeared on her face. He thinks their lives were very hard and they barely held back tears, then asks the woman to wait. He is going to withdraw money from his account, and she says she will check Mr. Allan's balance. She says he has $3 million left and each doll costs 100 yen. The elf smiled and said she diligently deposited the fee for using the creation games into the boy's account. Looking around, he suddenly notices his games in the guild waiting room and outside among the children. He sees how elderly people chat freely and nearby merchants and adventurers. When he is shocked, he realizes that this is extremely popular everywhere. Self explains that to obtain rights to these things during outings with the guild and merchants, they made a pact with a secret spirit. So as soon as this succeeds, the guild will raise him to the highest rank provided that one of sales goes to his bank account. The main character wonders why the elf's eyes were full of tears all this time. Going crazy, he says he understood, asks if they will go shopping first, and assures that he will do everything they desire. Both looked at each other and pondered. Approaching, she said she was grateful to the hero. Instantly, the very self suggests where to go. Betnal still remembers another place, and all this begins to drive the main character crazy. Soon they already had over 50 slaves. On the right, she says her name is L, in the middle Tina, and on the left R. One of them introduced herself as Aura and, calling him master, said she was pleased to work with him. At that moment, the boy thought that they were all beautiful and that this was every man's dream, a real harem. He tells himself that from today the boy is the village elder. Noel adds that much is expected from him, and the boy suspects that they are plotting something. The responsibility fell on the master's shoulders to take care of more than 50 slaves, and he worries, what will happen to his supernatural life now? After some time, they went to bed, thinking about the fact that now they would have to feed 50 people every day. The fact that he gets out of bed himself shows those two clearly want something from this. A few hours ago, slave 10. The elf girl noticed that she would buy a girl on the side, and also all those at the back. The merchant begins to grumble about the approximate price, but the girl sharply replies, give a normal price, take into account the damage these girls have suffered, and reduce it by at least 2 orders of magnitude. And asks if it wouldn't be cheaper than keeping unsold slaves in reserve. To negotiate on equal terms with slave traders, he began to look at slaves as ordinary goods. Then the main heroine thought that she was so skillfully convincing the experienced merchant, as if he were a completely indecisive man. As soon as one of the slave women was freed, the sylph immediately approached her. The girl apologized, but the elf calmed her down, saying, don't worry, and the poor hero thought that this was exactly why he admired her. Crying thinks that today he had to do a bunch of things. But he feels uneasy. He is afraid that the other abilities are too strong to assimilate. He understands the one who was reborn must calm down, otherwise he will also perish once and for all. Meanwhile, no one suspects that this girl's abilities are about to explode. She says that the alchemical abilities of this girl are at a high level, incredibly precise and undoubtedly acquired through training. But you can't find out what abilities you have until you are accepted. Returning to the present, the main character lies in bed, desperately wonders how everything passes so quickly, and realizes that he needs to come up with a plan for the future. Meanwhile, the elf girl feels that it is meant to be and that Allan cares about her very much, and at that moment, without noticing it, tears appear in her eyes. She was tormented by the thought that she might turn out to be a disappointment, and after so many entertainment products, they got only this. And the boy ruins games every day, always lets her win, and childishly treats how big his defeat is. Smiling, she thinks that he can't be such a fool, and that you are definitely ready to stand up to the merchants. Confused, she thinks that in this he is somewhat cute, but she needs to keep her secret. She, like all slaves, was initially supposed to be taught and used beyond all limits. But Allan warmly grew close to her. Now it is turned off. Where do you even notice this? She believes that Allan does not buy people just to satisfy hunger, so, guided by her ideal, she approaches the elf and asks Allan to allow her to pass. The boy says that she is very nervous, so it is better for her to just sit somewhere comfortably. She herself says she is fine as is, and her companion repeats the same. The boy is most tormented by the thought, does she not want to be in the room with a man for long? He is unable to get rid of the feeling that his merits are being taken away, while that man praises their achievements. But you must also be properly recognized. He thinks he should take this chance to once again confirm his position, and then sincerely says that he is proud of them. The elf shouted that he has made quite a lot of money recently, and it is true. Her companion says that he must spend this money to feed the slaves. She decides that this is not the place where he deserves praise, and her companion agrees. Seeing this, the main character thought uncertainly, "Isn't this a sarcastic comment?" He wonders if she could at least be a little happy about those 3 million coins, and if she even knows how much the employees of her clinic earn. Are you changing the subject? Boy says he wants to learn about the room of the future. Just ask her if she agrees with this. It seemed to me that the goddess said that the room definitely stinks, and the boy wonders why he is so nervous. Moreover, he says that first the price of buying slaves must be converted into an annual debt for each, and as soon as they pay it off, they will finally be freed. So they should engage in agriculture and trade so that human labor turns into products and money. And they will use this to pay salaries. This debt will be paid off every year. After this explanation, he asks them with curiosity in his voice what they think. And his head spins with excitement because this way one can get rid of the obligation to keep things as slaves, and this is the perfect solution. He thinks that the responsibility of an entrepreneur when one must take care of how employees will survive is only the beginning, and at that moment one of the girls asks him to wait. The elf asks, is he really going to sell them all at the initial price, and does he even know what a fair price for her is? Her companion adds that he better reconsider this idea. But he just couldn't grasp this plan. His goal was to acquire abilities to end hunger. Group nervous realized that this was quite a painful blow. But he says he doesn't want to treat slaves just as slaves and wants to avoid that, and in the end he just wants to have someone close. If at least one of the slaves somehow pays off his debt, that will be enough for him. The plan is simple. Null and the rest will use alchemy to create agricultural tools and fertilizers, taking advantage of the fact that elves are a race loved by nature itself, thus increasing the yield of wheat and soy. He continues and says that the secret ingredient is the kitchen itself, and from these 3 pillars they will be able to create new products, and they will seek money through the Merchant Guild. Hearing this, both froze in shock and just remain silent. He is terribly nervous and keeps wondering how it looks and whether it worked. The elf woman replies that she thought she was already used to him, but honestly, he surprises her. He says that in that case, though that she also does everything her own way. Surprisingly, Noel says that he shares Sophie's opinion. After I received this completely disappointing answer, the boy feels that the path to physical intimacy will be too long and complicated. Leaving there, the elf thinks that she ruined everything. Because she did not recognize her leader in Allan's thoughts, he was completely confused, so she could not respond properly. And she suddenly realizes that she was too fascinated by that person to whom she owes so much. Crying, she thinks that she completely let him down. But she catches herself thinking, wouldn't it be okay to have a slave who could speak and express himself? At that moment, her companion Null approaches and calls, and Sophie says that she likes her character. It seems that slavery is not to his liking. It adds that this should be taken into account. Hunger is completely understandable. No one understands that she agrees to save the girls and use the recovery. And those cruels they bought are the same as before, with problems in the body and a stolen future. She quietly adds that she expects no reward, it is simply an act done out of his kindness. But the elf doubts and asks if he could be a bit more ambitious, and Noel explains that the girls they bought are also a bit confused by this situation. According to the girl, it is true, they also need this situation explained to them. And eventually everyone will understand Allan's kindness and generosity in his mind, and this mind knows. To prevent the boy from falling into unconscious seduction by the girls, he must be closely watched. Embarrassed, no one reacts to her friend's selfie, and she waved it off, saying, "It's okay, we will explain everything to the others." After some time, the elf girl finally explained everything, how the salary will be and how it will work for the slaves. One of the girls says that these conditions are very favorable to them and asks if she wants to question the boss again. Seeing this reaction, the elf girl understands. It is completely normal for her to think this way. And after everything that happened during the restoration, it is hard to imagine such a master. The elf, smiling, apologizes and says that it is Allan, and they better get used to him as soon as possible. Suddenly, another woman raised her hand and called the elf, who asked if she could be called Sylphie, and she says yes. Finally, beginning to get to the point, the woman asked if serving Master Allan meant giving him her body, or if that was exactly what she meant. Answering the question, the sylph notes that it is exactly so. She thinks so her anxiety is completely understandable. Elves have always been considered a symbol of beauty among rare creatures, and it would be untrue to say that they are not proud of it. They do not wish to give themselves to just any stranger, but if the reason is a lack of mutual attraction and their shields perceive it that way, then for an elf it can become a horror because they have already been in such a situation, and for other races it can also be very difficult. But for elves it is usual confusion and conflicting feelings, and here another slave asks the elf woman if she is not attracted to women at all. Everyone says that she does not believe in it. But sometimes she feels how the main character looks at her body, and then thinks that this feeling seems to run down her legs. She says that one way or another there are things that are hard to believe. But Allan is not the kind to cause pain to others without reason. She swears like an ancient elf woman and gently asks everyone to consider themselves deceived. And another slave said, apparently he seemed like a good person. Everything is fine with Orange. Smiling, the woman confirms this and simply thinks that Allan Samya is quite an interesting person. They have already seen everyone now, it is time to see Oris's side. In a new outfit that fits perfectly, she feels extraordinarily beautiful. Everyone considers her a narcissist because she loves herself so much, and that is exactly how it is. After she was captured and cruelly tortured, her skin seemed to burn from the sentence of fate. She was sold to some unknown person as a sex slave and humiliated. A fatal defect was found in her heart, supposedly the one that controls the very core of magic, and in this world, that alone is enough to condemn a person to slavery. Overwhelmed by cruel despair from the loss of beauty and magic, she could only wait for death. She looks closely at her master Allan and at her ancestral elven self. Looking out the window, she thinks that Lord Allan has a very strange sensitivity and, in her opinion, he is a truly rare type of being. But as the sylph told her, he understands the great power of restoration better than anyone. The elf explained that is why he pretends to be stupid, and when everyone understands him, they will be safe. But when she looks at the hero, she cannot hold back the thought, isn't he too stupid? And it is precisely thanks to the full restoration of her strength that her market value has rapidly increased. But if he has contact with the Holy Spirit, he must be preserved at any cost. She does not understand why this is happening. And if the Lord so desires to heal the flaw in her heart, then he will easily heal the body as well. Because elves as a race combine both dignity and arrogance. The women of this people repel every man who behaves like everyone else every day, and when they like someone, it is a burning passion. At that moment, something very important that happened then surfaced in her memory. She remembers how the Lord looked at those parts of her body that stood out the most. And this even if these divine expressions were so charming. If this is really his plan to make an elf like her fall, then Lord Allan is truly a master, a real veteran on the field of love. She is sure she knows she must win this duel at any cost, and first of all, she must do what she promised this very morning. But as soon as Juan arrives there, she immediately sees how the main hero is talking very excitedly with Sylphie. In Aura's eyes, he really looked fascinated, lively, and happy, watching all of this. She calls him darling. The protagonist quickly looks around and wonders if he heard her. In shock, he asks himself if he upset her. First, he says he is looking at her incredibly intently. She was quite confused because in the new outfit she looked incredibly beautiful. Your main characters got so distracted, as if Lord Allan doesn't notice at all. She is standing right here, even though directly in front of him. I can see from her she is certain it can't be. And at that very moment, the hero calls Aura to play Inside Out with him. Only she understands that although Sulf manipulated him and he unconsciously became the village elder, he still has self-respect. It reminded him how Aura called him darling, saying that she, unfortunate, added fuel to the fire. The guys suggested playing reversi since they haven't played for so long. He is confident that there is nothing to worry about. He is calm and, after all, the head of the village. If this were a company, he would be its CEO, and if someone slips up, nothing guarantees that he won't put an end to it. Because from now on he needs to act cautiously, and now he puts all his strength just to catch a glimpse of Aura's legs. Reaching out his hand, he sincerely acknowledges her strength and clearly makes it understood. The winner can give orders to the defeated. He understands that this way he can admire her lush charms, those he so desperately tried to avoid. And comparing them, he realized, Self is a very beautiful woman with well-formed curves, and Aura is also very beautiful, but with a more voluptuous figure. Looking closely at Aura, he notices that her charm resembles an idol, and her behavior is more like that of a curious nobleman. The elf suddenly pulled the hero out of his thoughts and called Lord Allan. Who decides to start then? She asked if her boar was in her color, implying she won. In a moment she puts the hero in checkmate and immediately asks what happens when checkmate is declared. And what about Shaggy? She asks Lord Allan, does the fall of the Jenga towers mean his defeat? And Shaggy, the guy, realizes he has been completely destroyed, a total collapse. Catching the gazes on himself, he says that Oro overdid it and does not want his master to win even something. They watched the show or commented that he was extraordinarily charming. The boy, frightened and fleeing, shouts that Aura is very romantic. But his wounded words, he asked her to fight seriously, and now he himself doubts whether he even wanted her to show pity, and seeing him like this reminds her of a small animal. She smiles and thinks that it was really very funny, but at the end she is pierced by pain, and at that moment someone calls her. Alpha says that she did well and fully expressed her opinion. Hearing this, Aurora begins to turn around. Her gaze catches the self-satisfied smile of the elven companion, which seems to say, the meeting ended so harshly that one can safely say she completely lost. At that moment she is suddenly seized by a thought. Was the boy's goal to pretend that he was being manipulated? She bites her fingers and thinks that she will not be able to contradict him, so he will hold her in his palm, and that is what makes him an incredible person. Sylphis agrees with her in the comments. If Or tries to approach indifferently, it will not burn her. She continues, says that as someone of the same race, she understands her feelings, or asked herself whether she should have known this herself. Looking back with a smile, Celta says that she fell in love first. You will always lose. As soon as this was said, cold sweat appeared on the woman. She sees how Noelle and Sylphis silently walk away, and in her mind emerges an image of ugliness, his master Allan and his closest companion, the elf Sylphis. She decides that she wants to become someone just as brilliant as that woman. Confident in herself, she says she will take someone else's warning seriously and with all her might, and the more challenges she faces, the greater her enthusiasm. Allan, who invented all sorts of gadgets, ended up becoming a punching bag. He lost every game he played. The goddess smiles and says, if someone were to write about him, it would turn out something like this. With tears, the boy asks the goddess to stop her attacks right now. But one of them explains, in the world of goddesses, this article ranks first on the list of people they would not want to reincarnate as. Suddenly changing the subject, she says that this is exactly what it was about, and this, supposedly, means that you should already have precautions, but you reply that he only has simulations, he is just preparing responses. Hearing rumors about his first order as the village elder, he bans slaves from playing the games he himself invented. He even insists that he reduced forced labor to a minimum. And it is not at all about him wanting to create some kind of white company or something like that. The goddess explains, if the village economy collapses, he might decide that. The man says that providing benefits for his employees is the duty of the leader and the village elder, and this bog adds that he knows how to get his way. However, the lithium from the group through which he suffered brought him a new way of torrenting, and Solf, Noelle, and Aura constantly ask to play against him. He pretends to strengthen friendship, but in reality, he has already lost 50 times in every game. He cannot understand whether Self is offended because they tell everyone about it. He persistently reminds the villagers to invite him to play. In the competition among the residents, distance between him and the slaves slowly melted away. When they found a common topic for conversation, the slaves began to get closer, and with the strategy taught by Sylph, it worked perfectly. As an adult, he should sincerely thank for this and believed that they would no longer offend him as a boy. Now they live quietly and normally, but even in this peaceful routine, it is hard to say that no one is dissatisfied. Thoughtfully, he recalls Sylph's magic, the endless creation of trees, and it seems that wind magic can grow even further and become tree magic. In other words, the wind loved all the elves and gave them its blessing, so they freely control all plants. Meanwhile, the dwarves with their earth magic extract nutrients from fertilizers through the soil, and having prepared it can enhance it, cause germination, accelerate growth, and strengthen plants. Suddenly, fantasies about two main girls flash in his head. On his knees, he thinks that the slaves have completely stopped respecting him. Solf says that if the soil is prepared correctly, the mana consumption will be less, and adds that the fruits turn out successful. The boy nervously asks, "Let me harvest." But all the women say that it is unnecessary, he needs to rest. In a matter of seconds, they are already casting the magic of victory. A tear runs down his cheek and the hero realizes each of them is incredible. And moreover, obviously be incredible. They're also extremely cute. Holding his breath, he realizes that soon he will be able to do anything with all these beautiful and cute girls. He feels that he cannot just fall silent and let everything end like this. He slammed his hand on the table and exclaimed that he still has an ace up his sleeve. He claims that his reincarnation is just beginning. I ask Allan what happened and why did he suddenly call the three of us to talk in the kitchen. The elf noted that if he was hungry, he could ask the girl to cook something, but the hero explained that no, he wants to try a new recipe. So he asks for Selfs, and the others pick up his plan to make them insanely crave his food and be unable to live without him. The sylph approached the hero and said she did as he asked, cooked potatoes with wind magic. He quickly thanked her and asked what Aura did, and the girl explained that she mashed beans with wind magic, actually soybeans, but even idiots accept that. Horn says it is extraordinarily tasty, and the hero thinks that his knowledge of modern life is working here, and only now did he feel true excitement after reincarnation. Aura asks the boy what magic he used to do this, but Allan cannot, he simply does not know or understand magic. Aura apologizes to the boy, he forgives her, and calls his slave null. Usually dwarves have a trait called metal. They are true masters in handling metal and very compatible with the earth element. Soon she starts cooking again. The main heroine is shocked, it is brilliant. She prepares a dish in a moment, and the dishes she uses are made by her own hands. Soon he immersed several slices of potato at 338 degrees Fahrenheit and to finish, sprinkled them with some salt. The dish is ready. Eva serves it to everyone with a smile and says it's time to eat French fries. Three girls look with surprise, they have never seen such food before. At that moment, Aura boldly starts to try the recipe. It seems she really likes it, and the hero is incredibly happy because of her amazing reaction. Having tried the French fries, Selfie enthusiastically says that they are incredibly tasty, so much so that you go silent, and they will definitely be popular. Looking around, he also sees the gnome Noelle trying the fries, and it seems she likes them too. Rolling up his sleeves, the hero says, now time for the main course. Or just ask if he means that hard, simple thing that people eat. She says she wouldn't call it tasty, but will definitely try it, and no one will agree. The boy thinks that in this world no one bakes bread with the fermentation that was in his world, and now decides to bake real bread using a special ingredient. The elf asks if it's about wonderful skin. He answers yes, and then it needs to be put in a container with water and a little sugar. He rejoices, dances with the jars, and then says it's his time to show the trick he's been waiting for all this time. Determine uses healing magic and at the same time releases dark decay magic. At that moment the hero feels confident. Clever readers have already guessed. When he said special ingredient, he meant yeast. Seeing such a demonstration of power, all three froze in shock. Then Sophie asks, you can't use magic. He said so. Aura asks inquisitively, what does that mean? And the boy involuntarily wonders if he was mistaken this time. He says he cannot use magic, but for a moment he used his natural ability restoration. The elf points out that he summoned dark magic, and the boy, agreeing, admits he restored the magic he once engraved in his memory. Shortly after reincarnation in this world, the goddess can give him additional information about his ability. Seeing her, the boy irritably asked what she wanted this time, and she, starting with an apology, said she connected to him because of a special dream, so he should be worried. She says his restoration skill is flawless, but adds, due to certain limitations, the most terrible result the world has ever seen, forced restricting its use. She explains this with a small analogy. Imagine a revolutionary operating system, but with only 8 megabytes of RAM. So when the goddess called him 8 megabytes of RAM, the boy asked her to stop insulting him with such cold words, and she simply continued explaining. She says restoration has many applications, and all are built into the power given to him. She explained that having heard a spell only once, he can compress it into himself and restore it at the right moment. But due to the hero's poor memory, this can be done only once and only for 30 seconds. And also because of the boy's weak body, he can restore only what is preserved in immaterial form. Using it, he returns the spell to the registry. It can no longer be used, and more powerful spells are out of the question. They would completely overwhelm him. Understanding this, the boy thinks his body is really useless. After the explanation, the goddess says goodbye to him because dawn is approaching. Now the boy says that this is exactly why he can reproduce magic in this way, and it understands itself. But the real question is why he preserved this very magic, and whether its purpose is to decompose everything around. He smiles and says that it is not quite so. It is not decomposition, but fermentation, which is needed to make good bread. When the word fermentation was uttered, which they had never heard before, the three girls were completely confused. He beams with satisfaction. He believes there is nothing better in the world than seeing those surprised faces. Then he explains that fermentation is similar to decomposition, and people have learned to tame it, discovering many benefits for themselves. Here they explain that yeast breaks down sugar in the dough, producing carbon dioxide and alcohol. This is what makes the bread soft and fluffy. Sophie says that she did not know about this at all. Without any comments, she just finds it very interesting, and Aura says that he has enormous knowledge and she respects him very much for it. The main character thought that he was probably worried because his abilities were limited. Now is not the time to retreat from this reincarnated life. Everyone approaches the jar, admiring the dark magic of decomposition. Seeing this, the protagonist was embarrassed and tried to understand what was happening. 3 jars are glowing and he wonders, are they also skilled in dark magic? Girls, surprised and a little suspicious, ask why they were gathered in the kitchen. When one of them thinks it is because of hunger, the boy explains that he just wants to try something new. Soon everyone agrees, the plan is to lure them with food. One of the assistants magically shows a cut on Yama. Another skillfully squeezed soybeans. They do not stop cooking, they take up the task again, using oil. Everyone gasps upon seeing this rare ingredient, and the boy shows that it was modern knowledge that helped him. When asked by what magic they obtained that liquid, they said the poor guy did almost nothing. Seeing that he was embarrassed, the inquisitive one apologizes for the shameless question. They continue to prepare. The short girl is responsible for lighting the cauldron. The gnomes are skilled with metal and earth, and the highlight of the little ones is her ability to handle fire. Thus the flame becomes very strong. The man froze in surprise, noticing how the eye in the cauldron made by the gnomes quickly heated up. Until the fool feels the burden of his uselessness. He is figuring out what steps to take next with the dish. Until he finally manages to cook French fries. Everyone is stunned by this dish. The taste is simply wonderful, and the girl is truly surprised by it. To the point that it almost made her addicted to that flavor. Another froze silently, unable to explain anything. So her plan is simply to take and start selling. Cook now froze and waits for her reaction. Her facial expression is hard to understand. The third is clearly delighted, so next up is the main thing, bread. It seems one of them simply hates this human food. Apparently the glutton simply hates this dough. He thinks the bread of this world does not undergo fermentation, so it turns out bad, it lacks some important essence. He asked a colleague to put some grape skins with water and sugar into a glass. Time to shake it, let everything mix. Trickster kept this trick to himself all this time. It is there that his destructive restorative magic is concentrated. Lost in thought, the trickster recalled the yeast extract. They're also stunned that he can use magic. The chef paused for a moment, wondering if he had made any other mistakes, but soon decided to explain everything. His power is not mysticism, but the ability to restore, but the problem is that he called it black magic. In reality, it is just a power recorded in his brain. We see the boy sleeping after reincarnation, and as if from nowhere something mysterious awakens him. The woman prepares to explain his ability once again. He grumbles that it is already late at night, and she calmly explains that it is just a dream. Before she manages to answer this question about the explanation, the creature apologizes. As a reincarnated being, he received a privilege, the power of restoration, but the trouble is that due to lack of strength, he cannot truly use it. So much so that the poor guy is even compared to a computer with less than 8 GB of RAM. In reality, it looks like that guy had only 8 megabytes, and the fool even asks her not to use those terms. Soon she again decides to return to the topic of his ability. His restoration opens all possibilities, so the lucky one will be able to use magic he has seen only once. As long as he can imprint it in memory. The thing is, the poor guy is so helpless that he can record it only once, and that recording works for only 30 seconds. His weak body can restore only what still has a material form. Suddenly, the weakling understood. He can record only one spell and cannot use it again, and it cannot be too powerful because it will simply break him. Thinking about this, Allan soon realizes he is real trash. She decides to leave. It's almost morning, but the young man insists that the goddess stay and answer a few more questions. Returning to the present, the dark-haired boy wonders why she agrees to the deity's insults and begins to explain his spell. And it's also interesting, why does his power turn only spoiled things into other materials? Listening to Sylphie, the main heroine explains, it's not spoiled but fermented. Without this, the bread won't turn out. None of them have any idea what that means. He's happy to see their shocked faces. Taking advantage of this, the boy explains, fermentation is a process of spoilage used by people. It is the yeast that makes the bread so fluffy and soft. This information was a real surprise for the three. When he sees how amazed they are, the boy feels joy in his heart. But even so, it's not yet time to boast about having transformed, and someone, it seems, is picking something up. All three begin to reproduce his mystical trick. Frozen shock when he noticed it. These three are true masters of the magic of wood, wind, and metal, and even possess dark spells. The magic that the poor guy so carefully hid was spent so easily. It is impossible not to recall the judgment of the goddess in this. And that scoundrel continues to mock Allan's situation. To make matters worse, the fool is madly enchanted by her beauty. Meanwhile, the entity delights in its actions. And then that idiot simply leaves again, leaving the cook alone. Over time, the girls learn to bake bread perfectly. So much so that they simply admire the dough. Seeing them like this makes him much happier. Before reincarnation, the poor guy was made happy only by Mizuki, but now the cook can bring smiles to many. Though the fool thinks that everything would be better if he could do something, plus 18. Suddenly 2 more teenagers appeared, approached him, and asked if there was anything to eat. We see that Allan is going to organize a bread festival. Sylphie noticed that many there liked it precisely because they had almost no access to food. Many lived with closed hearts, but thanks to the help of the main character, everyone began to open up. It was his natural charm that managed to help others. Today's food is part of one of the 3 pillars in his head, and these dishes will also bring good money. She remembers the whole process and all the efforts the scientist made, and how he introduced her to new concepts she had not even suspected. And that clumsy one begins to wonder if his ally can read evaluation scrolls. She realized everyone wants to unite and move towards the ideal of a chef. Meanwhile, Aura continues to enjoy her little bread. At first, it seemed to her that the main character was out of his mind when he declared that he was going to put an end to world hunger. But his knowledge and revolutionary zeal stunned her. As a proud representative of the High Elves, this noble lady soon decides to repay and help him achieve his goals. But right now, the most important thing for her is to eat more bread. See how Noelle also enjoys this new taste. He thought that everyone would just keep these wonderful flavors to themselves. But Allan gave them out to everyone because this altruist simply wanted everyone to eat too. Lately, the introvert has been acting a little strange after all. Next to the smiling chef, her heart seems to be pounding. She thinks she's not as smart as Sylphie. Yet the short girl sincerely wants to be helpful and make the one who was reborn even prouder, so she tirelessly puts in more and more effort. Because her greatest desire is to have her head petted. And this thought was born in them. Suddenly some scoundrel appeared and kidnapped the poor hero. Remembering that day, the dark-haired boy created sourdough bread with black magic. He played a few more games, he lost them all, but still enjoyed their smiles. He is extremely happy about everything that is happening. He wants tomorrow to be even better. While he sleeps, someone sneaks into the house quietly. It seems the noise is already approaching the bedroom. And that idiot decided that it was some kind of 18 visit in the middle of the night because he impressed them with bread. We see the fool thinking that everyone is enchanted by his cooking skills. Stress and anxiety are immediately visible. And that idiot just stands and waits for his first time. A half-spider invader is approaching. Seeing this monster, he shuddered with fear. Then the criminal simply begs for his silence. The web begins to entangle him. Although she has a strange appearance, she is still incredibly beautiful and assures that she will not eat him. Suddenly, the ceiling began to crumble and she realized there is no time left to talk. And soon she lifts her victim into her arms and Allan falls under the spell. The spider begins to run out of the house. Soon some people attack the daredevil, but 3 of his companions appear to save him. She suddenly realizes 2 unusual elves and an old dwarf are standing against her. Chances that she will have to face them are almost none. So the trickster simply apologizes and shoots her webs. Then she makes a huge leap over the 3. Her speed shocks everyone. The night is in her favor. It is easier to escape from pursuers in the dark, and the madman soon suddenly bursts into the forest. The poor fellow can only stand in amazement and not understand how all this is happening so quickly. A fierce battle was supposed to have already broken out here, and he bitterly thinks that he was abandoned. They were only pretending that they would not allow a fight. He has a broken heart. He was not saved. He begins to think that he will try to find an escape route on his own, but soon the enemy's airbags calm him down. Approaching her lair, Cook was thrown to the ground. Soon he also begins to demand to be released. Even trying to break out of this web is impossible. It became clear his opponent is an arachne, a species known as the Masters of Weaving, and they are truly dangerous. He was captured because he was supposed to heal someone, and someone let slip about his abilities. And the girl, it seems, is calling someone. Suddenly a voice appeared, addressing her specifically. She indignantly complains that her companion kidnapped someone. Another female spider soothingly says that there is nothing to worry about. Her name is Rhea, and she quickly apologizes for her older sister's behavior. While they argue, the fool thinks that these are 2 relatives with good airbags. They continue talking and commenting that he is a real feast. Suddenly, Allan notices something. The younger one seems to be seriously injured. Another interrupts the conversation and approaches the dark-haired boy. She is tormented by doubt whether the one who was kidnapped can heal her younger sister. The fool thinks that he doesn't care about having a Yander girl, but it is still frightening, and he also realizes that he has the ability to regenerate. He fears that after helping, he will be rejected, but there is no other way out. Earlier, the researcher had several questions, and out of fear, he became polite. Even the spider admits so many formalities are not necessary. Without unnecessary words, her injury will be difficult to heal. Having learned this, they were quite surprised. So much so that the brave man makes it clear there will be no mercy for those who touch his friends. And the goddess begins to mock his misfortune again. When she is questioned, Neck firmly assures that she did nothing against his companions. He swears the only thing she did was kidnap him. He still doubts whether he can trust his opponent, till the woman swears by the name of her family. Hearing this, he sinks even deeper into thought, only for the entity to appear and annoy him even more. Before starting anything, he insists that the two of them make a spiritual oath for negotiations, but someone refuses. It turns out the elder fears that the three will attack them, as if swearing that they will not be able to defend themselves. The girl refuses to accept such a condition. She notices that the main character suddenly, out of nowhere, began to smile. Lost in thought, the cook suddenly realized his assumption was wrong, because the poor guy sits and thinks that he was probably abandoned. After all, his allies were so powerful that they would not have allowed him to be easily kidnapped, so they didn't even really help. The poor guy thinks that their plan was to get rid of such an annoying person like him. Thinking about his situation, the loser notices, being an Isekai, he should have been privileged. Since he failed to behave like the main character, he has to try to be cute, and he is determined to make her accept his condition. Just as Nick cares for Rhea, so our guy has important people to him and does not want the spider to attack them. Otherwise it won't heal. Sylphie is looking for him and remembers she was supposed to protect him but let him down. They decide to ask the elves for help. The kidnapper went into the forest. Moreover, the three notice a shine on her leg, and this shine reveals the kidnapper as the commander of the Lust Demon Lord. 7 demonic beings govern sins, and even their servants, though assigned to one of them, are outraged that they were so easily defeated. Reflecting on her abilities, they realize, in the darkness, their opponent will defeat them. There's a plan to resolve this. Suddenly, a vampire chair appears, and one of them almost jumped back in fear. The idea is simple, to use it to find where the sounds come from and exactly where the places are located. They hear Allan behaving very politely with the spiders, so much so that they even wonder, why is he so polite? They hear his oath, whoever dares to touch his family will find no mercy. All the girls hear those brave words, and knowing that the cook values them above his own safety, are almost touched. Soon the magical crystal will be squeezed. They begin to divide the teams. The rescue begins, and they are so determined to bring him back home. Meanwhile, the boy is worried. Will he be saved if everything goes awry? And the goddess, of course, does not give such a spoiler. He tried to negotiate but failed miserably. It seems she has human legs. The main heroine sees her separately with surprise, and the fool is still under the spell of that spider. So the troublemaker remembers, if her sister is cured, she will allow the boy to do whatever he wants. She trades her body, and Allan is shocked. His surprise is so great that the boy barely remembers why he came. He is torn between accepting this offer and refusing it, but his memory begins to help him think. Mizuki's memories tear him back to the moment when the girl looked at him with judgment just because he was looking for computer stores. And this persistent one demanded that he spend money on her, not on equipment. And he spent so much that the girl also had to get a job, all because of lust. When he recalls this, he becomes calmer and his brain works more thoughtfully. First and foremost, safety, but so far everything is fine with the boss. In second place, the safety of his comrades. It seems calm here, while Rhea meanwhile is stuffing leaves into his nostrils. So the main problem is the arachnid itself, which apparently is so disgusted by all this, until it began to seem that the kidnapper felt something. He decides for now to take a step back. Suddenly both of them as one began to leave this place. Soon the kidnapper notices something. Suddenly a magical barrier appears in the middle of the forest. Seeing this, he is increasingly amazed, because all his allies have come to save him. And then one of them looks him in the eyes and apologizes for being late to appear. The spells soon tore him from the web, and they managed to create a barrier because he bought time. Hearing this, he was very surprised. But as soon as he looks closely, the cook notices all the elves have gathered. At that very moment, Sylvie suddenly catches the main character's attention. Thank the boy for trusting her, because she decided that the poor guy was just pretending to be naive to buy time. Suddenly the sisters appeared as if out of thin air to challenge them. At that moment, the leader notices that the enemies are no longer fleeing. At that moment, they all found themselves face to face. Seeing this, Allan becomes even more confused and does not know what to do. The fool can only pretend that it was all planned. Each of those present was surprised by these words. Because of this, the atmosphere here seems to tighten. But his bravery was quickly noticed anyway, and the kidnapper dared to acknowledge his virtues. The enemy's reaction was striking. His allies began enthusiastically praising his sharp mind. Such compliments excite him even more. The fool starts fantasizing about the situation and happily rejoices that he was saved. It would have been much easier for them to abandon him, but the fact that he was saved fills him with the feeling that he is capable of anything. Group gathers confidently as the situation has changed. Though they skillfully negotiate, and the child simply radiates confidence. This convinces the female spider to cooperate as well as she can. One of her conditions is that he never raise a hand against Rhea. He asks for the same, protect his allies in exchange for treating the kidnapper's younger sister. Now they are deeply thoughtful. In the end, the conditions are still on the sister's side, and the one negotiating will not be fooled. Eventually, she begins to think that her body might be drawn into the negotiations. The three companions of the main character immediately refuse. Cook is shocked and confused. He has no idea what to suggest, until he remembers their web-spinning abilities. Then his desire is to regularly receive some arachnid threads. His question clearly embarrasses them. Seeing their reaction, Allan also blushed. Then his allies begin to demand explanations one after another. With this, the poor guy realized the time when everyone was kind is over. Everyone pressures him, insisting that he say why he needs this in exchange for treating the younger sister. Sylvie begins to ponder the situation, because she thinks she will not be disappointed if her master takes an interest in them. She is frightened by the very thought that he leans more towards Rachnes than towards the elf. It is absurd to her that he could propose such a thing. Everything has escalated so much that she feels immense disappointment. Meanwhile, Noelle begins to wonder how incredible the main character's abilities are. But when she heard his request, she suddenly felt uncertain. She's also upset because of it. Even Aura looks completely confused. She tries not to behave like her other friends. And on top of that, the gentleman wonders if it is just another trick of the cook. Then the girl thought that the boy simply did not understand what the problem with his question was. We see that Allan is still confused and does not understand what is happening. The arachnids blushed and became embarrassed after his question. The dark-haired boy tensely asked his colleague what was happening. He suddenly learns that asking an Araki for threads means something completely different. It's like asking for someone's hand in marriage, so the boss understands why everyone is so surprised. Ra, of course, refuses. They have just met. The goddess teases him again and asks if that madman wants anything else, say, some temple machine. A few weeks pass since that event, and the younger sister appears to deliver several threads to the healer. As soon as he saw her, the boy immediately thanked her. It turned out that the wound had completely healed, but in the end he lost the ability of his magical eye. Then the entity starts teasing him again, saying that the weakling could have avoided this if he weren't so weak. At that time, the hill belonged to the Spider Sisters, and they sent a small spider to scout the strange noise. The little creature saw Allan using his regeneration. It was then that Nick decided to kidnap him to help her familiar. Now there is a spiritual contract. The needs of Iraq will not resort to force as long as none of them causes harm. And one more condition to heal Ra's wounds and provide him with the highest quality threads. And also feeding those tiny spiders who work there like laborers. This is an incredibly profitable deal that the boss plans to keep as long as possible until someone calls him. This is Noelle. He is asking if the delivery is already finished. And the baby gives the creatures even more food. Watch how she does it. The gnome extends a portion of French fries to the little servants. First the elves resisted more, and the gnomes as always loved the spiders. Because they are so cute, their eyes seem to shine like precious stones. He enthusiastically praises that the baby notices this, and his new ally has a question. He wants to know if his boss is feeling better. Turns out that the young woman means Sylphie. They sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding regarding the proposal, but everything has already been clarified. Because the one who was in despair persistently explained that he has no hidden motives. Yet his partner, it seems, became terribly nervous because of this, to the point that he became much more focused on business. Then it turns out that she is going to become independent from the merchant guild, and he wonders what is troubling her so much. Because the poor girl thinks if she doesn't try hard, she won't be able to stay close to him. Then Allan begins to suspect that his companion is collecting money to then abandon him. This is despair. He does not want to be abandoned. All this begins to weigh on him even more, and at that moment his other friend calls. Here is the prototype of the item he ordered ready. He thought of giving Sylphie this item as a gift. In his imagination, this is the perfect outcome. Everyone comes out as winners. So much so that the girls immediately notice the boy looks very nervous. You see how Nick admits that the main character is an interesting guy. He is weak, but the mind of our boy attracts her, and the Joker even suggests breaking the delivery agreement just to get married. Moreover, the confidence of the main character is capable of breaking even the barrier between races. Her sister also sympathized with the main character, and the Iraqi suspects that all this could have been the scheme of that scoundrel, and someone asks her why she is so cheerful. She assures that for Kyubai she is the same as always. We meet the fox who wants to find out everything that happened. Arachnida tells that she found an interesting man. And thinking, she suddenly remembers there was a vacant position. Because the throne of the demon lord is empty. The furry one could not help but be interested in this charming young man who was found. Suddenly it turns out he is a human. This makes her think she hasn't dealt with a human for a long time. Today, the demon lord is chosen based on recommendations and approvals, and it turns out that this rascal is the demon of lust himself, who has now decided to personally test the main character. Sylphie notices after he bought her she is overwhelmed each time by new surprise, therefore, the main character remains a mystery to her. Still, this idiot doesn't know how to behave with women. Then the fool shows her that he can remove the chip without toppling the tower and without using the magic of victory. His reaction enchants her even more. Although most elves were in captivity, none of them hated him, they were only surprised by how he treated them. He still turns his actions over in her mind. She realized the guy never abused them and never claimed them as his own. Even after becoming rich, he always left them free and generously shared his wisdom. The clever one did this through games. They seemed to play, urging the servants to act and speak, because the guy never intended to defeat them. Because he wants to test their independence and see how they will act without his orders. In this, the elf wonders, does he always sabotage himself, or does he do it intentionally? Recently, the dark-haired one even opened bank accounts for all his servants and entrusted the big-eared one to manage the village treasury. All this trust makes her insanely happy. And the cook quickly calls her and asks if it is possible to pay the worker 5 times more. This question extremely surprised her. Her reaction makes him embarrassed and seems to push him to just do 3 times or twice. This is not fantasy at all. They sell so much food that the revenue sharply jumped. And the chef still has to cover this from his own account to cover the craft expenses for everyone. He's even more surprised by his intentions. Because even in that situation, even on the day of the kidnapping, he never showed fear. He even negotiated and resolved their problem with the Iraqis. Despite that misunderstanding due to the accidental proposal of hand and heart. She also notices that he never reproached them for being kidnapped. On the contrary, he shared even greater profits with everyone. But even this is not enough for the elf because she wants to help him even more. He has the potential to become king, and she fears she won't keep up with him. Until the poor thing slaps herself to come to her senses. And focuses even more on what she is doing. Not to mention that the manager soon begins to rack his brains over how best to help him. Now it is clear how the hero becomes determined and ready for anything, and the dwarf decides to go to work. He opens the door and the services begin. The workshop is incredibly impressive. All this was built so that spider threads would turn into fabrics. He decided to sew clothes right there because clothing makes women twice as charming. The idea is this, to take Aura as a model because the clothing makes her beauty even more vivid. Once the rascal was wildly fascinated by women's clothing, and now he is tormented by one question, whether that fabric is suitable for underwear as well. While the daredevil is pondering, his other comrades are closely watching everything. Everyone admits this work is impressive. He immediately looks at them. Because of this, they blush deeply, and they sincerely thank the children for their help. And both notice that the work is going very well. And all this thanks to Noelle's skills. Then Ra becomes even more determined and wants to bring even more threads. Allan assures that everyone will be grateful. He is happy that he consulted Sylph about expanding the business, but the fool is convinced that the manager considers him worthless. The cook is convinced that he takes credit for the workers' efforts for everything, and because of this feels insecure. Because he is afraid that as soon as they become free, everyone will rise against him. That is why he opened accounts to the servants and entrusted Sylphie with managing everything. This made her stronger, but the naive one still asks herself if everything will end badly, and the Iraqi brought even more cobwebs. No one is even preparing to take the first test. We see how the main character cautiously begins to test the equipment. Strangely, as soon as they start weaving, that madman suddenly remembers that he needs to do things 18. Then the fabric will be carefully washed, wrung out, and dried, and then finished and stretched to the required width. From this process, a beautiful fabric is born, and both are left surprised by it. So now the idea is to make clothes from this, but the one who transformed is still puzzling over how to implement it. Ross says that she will be able to do it. She seems very excited and can't wait to start this process. As always, the goddess appears only to tease us. It is clear that this young woman can sew any clothing. Suddenly, the administrator appears out of nowhere. Or right now the one who greets at that very moment. He even grabbed her to pull her somewhere. He leads the girl with big ears to their master. Here the shy one says that she has returned. And the researcher warmly welcomes her. because a clever person sewed her a dress as a gift to show how much they appreciate her hard work. This gesture noticeably moved her. The fact that her efforts were noticed makes her incredibly happy. Her joy is so great that she wants to jump up. He also wants to see her in that dress right now. So the manager goes and tries on her new gift. The dress is incredible, delicate, and will definitely become a hit in the capital. Of course, Allan thinks that it suits her incredibly well. Not to mention the design, it is also quite beautiful. Meanwhile, the elf girl does not notice that the bandit is intently looking at her leg. She even blushed. She hasn't seen such a look from him in a long time. Seeing such a reaction, she involuntarily thinks she needs to wear more clothes that emphasize her legs. Because the mischief maker noticed that her master loves legs. Suddenly, Neck sharply interrupts this moment. The kidnapper came to take her sister, and the rebel suddenly realizes her sister is not needed there. Moreover, the rascal wants to talk to Sylphie, and she was immediately surprised. Meanwhile, all the girls enthusiastically notice that the elf likes the gift. Soon he notices that she and that dress have enormous destructive potential. His plan was simple and cold, to secure the gratitude of the slaves so that once freed they would not abandon him. Although it was awkward, he was glad that he asked for a dress for Ra. The goddess noticed, she served him well, and one of his abilities was taking measurements from women's bodies. Her silence worries him greatly. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the creature disappears, leaving him to talk to himself. And the girls finish their discussion and decisively make a decision. The order is simple and harsh. Allan is never allowed to leave their base again. In other words, the poor guy is chained to the house, and this corner of the universe continues to tease him. A moment before the announcement of imprisonment, we see Sylphie, embarrassed, asking why this conversation is happening. The woman makes it clear she just wants to get along with her. Unexpectedly, it turns out that the owner of the eared girl can be recommended as a lord of demons. She remembers the next one serves one of those creatures and hoped she would find out about it, but she did not expect this. So the girl insists on a more specific explanation of this. And the trickster gets up and approaches her. Because the troublemaker simply adored the girl's dress. Fabric, its softness and shine enchanted her. Because she really wants Allan's knowledge and the dwarves' craftsmanship to be used to the fullest. And of course, the trickster will offer something in return. The idea is to give the spider-like creatures territory in exchange for a spiritual contract. Moreover, this mischievous girl also suggests that her creatures watch over the cook. It seems this idea greatly interested Sylphie. At first, they planned to cover the territory with a wind magical barrier, but this would be much more effective. But everything seems too good to be true. Then Nick remembered, not only demons will hunt the boy. Others will come to the sage, the hero, and the sword saint. Because in a direct confrontation no one will come out unscathed, the strategist would like to borrow his strength. Because her sister is still so naive. The elf suddenly realizes this spider was doing all this to protect her family. And then the manager suddenly remembers that her companion always noticed this. The representative says she will talk to the boss, but the final decision is his. But whatever his choice is, the boy needs to stop recklessly leaving the house. He will become a walking target for demons, adventurers, and guardians. So she will tell everyone and very soon will tell the boy this. Although imposing house arrest is terrible, it is a necessary evil. Returning to the present, he is clearly surprised by this. Everyone without hesitation immediately agreed with this decision. In general, the poor guy can only leave when he gets their permission. Then Allan thinks that they are afraid that the boy will start making perverted clothes. Then Sylphie anxiously explained that the life of the main character hangs by a thread. And that idiot thinks it's because he is a pervert. Ek explains that the demon lord of lust became interested in him. As soon as they understood the situation, the main character learns that demons are interested in his recovery. Now the poor guy only thinks about why he didn't make a spiritual contract to hide his power. But in reality, his ability is pure cheating, and in battle he is completely helpless. In other words, the hero could easily defeat him, and this very possibility scares him. He's terribly worried about all this, but he likes the idea that the nine-tailed fox is chasing him. And thinking that he is a human, the fool understands he has no reason to go against his own. It turns out that a demonic creature does not necessarily have to become an enemy of humanity. There is, say, a fox that guards brothels and does not allow women to be harmed. He begins to understand this, but is still afraid and still wants to know exactly how he will be recommended. His main sin is laziness. Of course, this is the position of the weakest demon lord, but he would become the first among humans to deserve this title. Having inherited this power, you will gain a unique ability. When the poor guy hears all the details, he understands nothing good will come of this. His power is to enhance the skills of subordinates simply through acquaintance with them, but the trouble is that it does not work on him. The poor guy begins to think that becoming this weak creature is a bad idea, until someone asks if it does not suit him. As always, the goddess appears, mockingly showing that he holds on only thanks to his slaves. Now seeing her, he's even angrier. He even reached the point where he throws pillows and complains that everyone is distancing themselves from him. And the boy is asked if he agrees to this proposal. Thing is, he is not interested in it at all. He only wants to continue living well. Moreover, having become one of those creatures, he will have to maintain at least some connection with society, and this is what he doubts. And then the creator of everything notices something flashed through his mind. Cook is surprised by this question, but there's no exact answer, until suddenly an idea emerges out of nowhere. At first, they plan to create a resort with shopping centers, hotels, businesses, services, restaurants, and a bunch of different entertainments. But all this would fall on his shoulders. He would have to manage everything, and the poor guy felt as if all their happiness was in his hands. And the blonde nods. The boy is not capable of that. He just wants to escape from reality and finally calm down, because all he wants is a simple, comfortable life. If the young man wins the title, his servants will have to work even more, and he does not want to overload them, because a simple life with feet on the ground is much better. Sometimes it happens that he has nothing to lose when he offers them these ideas. After all, the deity considers him a parasite who will never be able to rule over anything. Remembering his sister, he imagined that the family would react the same way, so the troublemaker decided to joke at dinner and suggest it. Then that unbearable one simply disappears, and he goes to eat. His proposal stunned everyone. When you see them like that, it immediately becomes clear the fool ultimately hides his feelings. If only at least one person showed interest in this idea, Sylphie offers to help. This is simply a wonderful idea for a manager. Noel also believes that this is an excellent chance. Two of them began bombarding with questions. How will businesses operate here? Even Aura is delighted with this initiative. She wants to show beauty to all the women of the world. These reactions simply stun him, and the aristocrat's idea completely drives this pervert crazy. They remember the Lord of Debauchery will soon come to them personally. The elf begins to contemplate preparations for her arrival, recalling every detail. So the plan is this: to arrange the most hospitable reception for Fox and convince her to accept Allan's ideas. Two sisters unanimously agree with the initiative. It was clear that these three were also delighted with this strategy. Well then, it's time to get to work. Meanwhile, the poor fellows did not notice that the idiot fainted standing during one of his perverted moments. You see the gnome waking up in the morning. He quickly feeds the watchful spider. The worker begins to mentally go over all the tasks for the day. So the girl decides, I will put on the clothes the cook gave me only after work. Here the short one recalls that the first gift went as Sylphie herself thanks to her efforts. When Allan spoke about freeing the slaves, he meant that dreams cannot be realized by force or pressure. And then they understand this is his true goal. He strives to continue giving his strength to those who were in captivity, even after they gain freedom. They themselves have felt this method on their own, so now all that remains is to believe him. The short one says that the manager always senses what their master wants. That's why she is incredible, and the other gnomes get along well with him. So logically, those who show the best result will be rewarded, and this pushes her to give her all. The cook saved her, and she wants with all her heart to make him happy. Then the clever one recalls that the rascal always looks at the colleague's feet, and she also wants him to look at hers. You see how the main character plays the role of an administrator. The guy notices that there is almost nothing to do at work. While the madman is pondering this, Sylphie suggests growing new plants to entertain him. She slips an encyclopedia to the poor guy, and he suddenly remembers he still cannot read the writing of this world. But the fool is enchanted by what he sees, until the elf notices despair in him. There's no rice there, so only growing sugarcane remains. They use earth magic to plow the land faster and more efficiently, and one of the servants shouted to them, "Go inside, don't waste time." And this good-for-nothing decides to help with the closing. He thought the mechanism of the weaving loom is so complex and advanced that he must help provide his workers with food and clothing. You see how Ra has been working tirelessly since early dawn, working with all his might. The maniac begins to question her about the clothes they are going to sew. And then the researcher instantly shows the sketches he prepared. Seeing how he puts his servants first, the spider decides to come to his aid. Soon two of them receive beautiful outfits. Another one is also in a cute sweater, and he simply freezes in amazement. One of the workers thought it would be deducted from her salary, so Allan immediately reassured her, it's a gift, nothing will be deducted from their money. The young woman gladly agrees. Ellie also thanks him once again and assures him that she will be under his care. Last time the village elder lost, but today he will win. his strategy is to take advantage of what is called a distorted lucky moment. He makes a move lightning fast, moves a piece on the board, and the goddess still underestimates him, but he doesn't care at all. He simply admits defeat and silently awaits his orders. This instantly lifts his mood. He dreams of seeing her legs. She blushes and asks her friends if something could go wrong, but both assure her it won't. He tries to express his desire until he is interrupted. No one will suddenly appear to talk, and the cook notices that she is in new clothes. When she finished work, she decided to dress nicely, and it suited her so well. And Allan asks, "Do you need something?" You see how the gnome made a cotton swab. So he asked Ellie to clean his ears. She notices that her master has accumulated a lot of wax. Suddenly he realizes the joy of victory distracted his attention. He begins to wonder how Mizuki would react if she found herself in this world. His closeness makes him embarrassed. He so wants to look at her outfit. Outside, someone calls Sylphie. You see how the main character asks if he can pick sugarcane to prepare food. He agrees and asks with interest what exactly they are going to do. This is bread, a dessert for a meeting with the Lord of Demonic Desire. And the young man again plunges into thoughts. He could not help but notice that his assistant is wearing her new stockings all the time. He is sincerely grateful they suit her so well. It turns out that the two largest stores in the capital were founded by Elf and Aura, and they dominate the cosmetics sales. Moreover, the cooperation of the Iraqi sisters allowed selling more clothes, and the district led by QB buys quite a few things. Meanwhile, he suddenly realizes that he is falling behind. The ingredients gathered there caught their eyes. He explains that this is needed to make the place where I will be mochi. That day, everyone really liked the bread, and the magic of the wind gave him the opportunity to look under their skirts. In other words, his strategy is to do the same right now. This dish requires a lot of magic, and you can't do without their help. Sweet potato will be crushed by the wind spell. This will also help with centrifuging and squeezing juice from sugar cane. With water magic, they will be able to extract much purer, more refined sugar. There are sticky traces of molasses on it, and the goddess kept teasing him. Until the cook finally moves and starts cooking. No one is monitoring every process. Meanwhile, others are making preparations, roasting soybeans and grinding them. When the mochi is already ready, they can taste it. First, Aura finds the dessert strange, but after trying it, she is delighted. Her delight enlivens the scene, and he closely watches the movement. He was immediately surprised, because everyone wildly liked the new sweet. Of course, he glows with joy when he sees their reactions. It almost mesmerizes him. Gnome also enthusiastically praises the mochi. He began to vividly talk about the new clothes they are working on. When asked which length is better, the smaller one showed her legs. He seemed enchanted, and she suggested making slits in the dresses, like in Sylphie. It seems QB flinched from the unexpected noise. Someone approaches her in NECA. Suddenly an elf appeared, overwhelmed with despair. Because Allan disappeared from their village, and this news stunned them both. Even under house arrest he was caught. And the deity asks how many more times he will fall for the same thing. In such a state he felt nothing and could not comprehend what had happened. And the goddess continues to mock him, the one who was kidnapped a second time. He has no idea where he ended up. Something seems to draw his gaze. Because finally he is coming out of the darkness. His feet touch the forest ground, as if something stands before him. The horned woman apologized. It was the only way to see him. Suddenly he shuddered, seeing a person in a kimono. Her name is Kyo, and she must save her village from an unknown disease. And here he notices that she needs his help. He offers him to do whatever is necessary to help her. Of course, this proposal caught him by surprise. He falls silent to avoid distraction, and since his mouth was shut, he responds only with muffled sounds. He approaches the woman, removes the fabric. Deity mocks him again. Her stomach even hurts from laughter until someone touches her. She understands it's time for a break. Since it was fun, she decides to take only a short one. She tells the other to go and sincerely assures that she will tell everything later. They will meet in his dreams. So the woman would call him flirtatious. They argue and finally she leaves. Then the horned woman asks if he feels better and he confirms it. He is eager to learn all the information down to the smallest details. Now the girl is going to talk about her 3 measurements. The boy found it strange. It turned out she felt someone's gaze on her legs, and then he realized he was caught off guard. Because her mystical eye sees right through him. Right now they are in the village of Yamato, the place where the Onis live. This word immediately surprises him. Even at maximum speed, it takes 3 days to get to this place from his home. In other words, time flows completely differently in the shadows. And he feels that Kyubai has already visited him. He is afraid that that entity has devastated his home, and this thought throws him into a panic. He is afraid that his comrades are wounded and are being made slaves again. His only wish is that they all continue to smile. Besides, the poor guy remembers something else. The protection system based on wind magic and spider detectors was easily bypassed. He is tormented by doubt. Was he easy to kidnap? The local guards turned out to be simply wonderful, and the girl with horns herself admits it. The dark-haired boy asks in surprise how the kidnapper slipped through those barriers. He feels awkward answering him. It turned out that her kind are true masters of hiding, but their system had a flaw. That problem turned out to be Allan himself, who was sleeping, caring about nothing. Her village is in terrible condition, and she knows that a verbal agreement is not enough. Her proposal is like a spiritual contract, and the cook notices that she is ready to risk everything for her people. Of course, the hero could help her, but the boy knows she will not let him refuse precisely because of her despair. Even worrying about his home, he still agrees to help her, and she immediately glows with joy. In his imagination, the village elder already considers him a hero and offers him his daughter. So finally, these two met once and for all. Almost all of them hate it when a person appears there. They even think that Q intends to betray them, and the boss, of course, feels awkward. One of the villagers grabbed his calabash and continued insulting the horned girl. And a jug flies towards her just so the fighter easily breaks it. Suddenly, the main heroine notices that her hand is like a knife. It turns out the leader is burning with anger because of the evil people committed in the past, but taking revenge on them is madness. And the young woman remembers she was recently expelled, so now she will do whatever she wants. She was so determined that she ordered the man to follow her. He gets scared when he realizes there is a plan to exterminate people, and someone tells them both to wait. The elder's order is for his henchmen to seize the traitor and the cook. This throws him into complete despair, but she stands firm. Then that crazy guy starts imagining that if they catch her, they will turn the poor girl into something perverse. If she loses, he will definitely be next. Just one of her strikes completely destroys the first opponent. They were thrown far away with insane force. Her martial art is incredibly powerful. She's so cruel that they even believe that girl is a gorilla. To the point that this rude person tells his partner to just get out. After all, these people only think about revenge. Despite everything Allan notices, although they are dangerous, he still understands their point of view. It is immediately clear this place is extremely poor, and it was once cleared out by people. Of course, they would never put their lives on the shoulders of former enemies. And he cannot understand how that crazy girl tries to solve everything by force. And the one who transformed admits that he cannot keep up with the events. That trickster always sides with the strong. So he decides to catch up with her right now. He has a clear thought in his head. If he provokes her, he will face the same fate as other fools. The poor girl notices, even when asking for help, people like her still think that way. The main character throws out random words, trying to defuse the situation. Once humanity hunted onuses, but none of them know why, and the fool still doesn't know what to say. She feels her partner's awkwardness and anxiously wonders if the healer harbors hatred toward her race. Because her nose is thinner than everyone else's, she can catch negative feelings. So the smart girl immediately asks if Allan is hiding something from her. To get out of this mess, the trickster asks, aren't bad thoughts or feelings abnormal? Here is a case where both sides of the story turn out to be the same. In other words, it's best to just leave each other alone if there is no real reason. If they want to keep peace among themselves. This answer leaves Kyle quite thoughtful. She realizes that her new ally is strange. Because when they look at him, he smells unlike the others, and he sees a human for the first time. Both arrive in areas affected by disease, and the smell there is simply unbearable. The area is completely abandoned, everything devastated. Finally, they reach the place where she was supposed to be treated, but the main character told her to wait. He finds this strange and asks what it is. Allan wants to check how they feel, and he needs Quao to convince them that this guy is a doctor. Nothing else, only that the cook saved 50 people, and perhaps his ability is limited. Even the main character is confused and does not know how best to respond. But since recovery does not depend on Mango, maybe there is no limit to how many people can receive his treatment. It turns out the trickster saved a few cards for his own safety and therefore will not act recklessly. Soon she begins to respect his decision. After all, such power belongs to the gods, so everyone dreamed of taking it away from the boy. So she decided to write this matter directly into their spiritual contract. Depending on the symptoms, the hero can treat them, but it is necessary to strike at the very root of the problem and not allow the disease to return. Because being captured again and again is a real horror, and the horned girl apologizes. She decides to atone for her own sins and begs the one who was reborn to help the children. It happens like this. The village elder does not scold her, but gently reminds her when good people kidnap you, it is true happiness. They go inside, and the boy suddenly wonders what would happen if his power were used for evil. Several sick and abandoned children lie on the ground. Their hands go numb, appetite disappears, bodies are constantly tired. Moreover, some do not even have the strength to get out of bed, and this frightens them very much because some have already been affected by heart failure. But something is wrong and he cannot get rid of the thought. Was this not mentioned in the Sylph Plant Encyclopedia? He has a question he wants to ask. Maybe it will be a difficult question, but Q assures him she will hide nothing. So the main character does not hesitate, immediately gets to the point. He is tormented by doubt. Is rice really the main food of Oni? And the brood got scared seeing that he knows it. He simply glows with joy because of this. We see how the hero thoughtfully reflects, any advanced technology is no different from magic, and with science everything is possible. Barely understanding this world, his conclusion. Medicine seems to have become outdated compared to magic, and only one person strives to understand what is happening. Turns out that the smart one just wanted to seem cool. She passionately wants to find out what the connection is between the disease and rice. He tries to explain, but her despair gives him no chance. The problem is that eating only rice, she suffers from malnutrition and vitamin deficiency, and it seems that she does not understand this at all. This problem is called kak. It can be treated by switching to brown rice. Then the poor fellow understands, in this new world it will not be easy for him to cope with this problem. So the plan is this, to prepare some of this rice, and he hurries after her. Because he still has one question left that needs to be clarified. Now she will show the secret of the village, which will reveal the truth about rice, and Kuvu believes Allan's words. You see a boy who is thoughtfully silent. There are few vitamins in the food, and he cannot understand why. And then a tall girl tosses a few stalks of rice into the air. Using her Asher ability, the fighter gains 6 hands that cut everything in sight, and he discovers that the grains are polished by swords, which surprises him. Any healthy Oni would have done the same. The boy is still amazed by these abilities, and wonders how they were once persecuted. This comment was clearly in poor taste. The young woman noted that it was a sincere question. She did not sense mockery in it, but it is better not to say this in front of others. He realized, even being a sword master, there is no escape from an attacking spell, and this race probably hates treacherous strikes. So he was kidnapped in the last desperate attempt, and she apologizes for everything. They evaluated the ingredients. The guy asked if there was garlic, and his ally didn't quite understand. We see a dark-haired guy who is lively explaining how to cook rice, and the horned girl looks like she doesn't understand at all. The cook clearly makes it known he will follow these steps. Patients will be fed this 3 times a day, and very soon they will need more resources, so it's better to expand the field. Fortunately, the chef has experience in agriculture. And the reborn one also wants some rice because he is hungry. Then at a certain moment, everything gets complicated. One of the children refuses to make contact with the person. This reaction angered the thug. He sternly warned the little girl to be careful, and meanwhile Allan proves that he poisoned nothing. But the kid stubbornly refuses to cooperate and even says that the smell of garlic is terrible. Ku restrains his partner, not letting her try the tea, because her cruelty simply radiates from her body. Soon she insists that the short girl apologize. She is a master and must demand good manners from her students. Poor main character tries to intervene and eventually gets punched. The girl thinks that the teacher has turned against the healer, and they argue again because the girl does not want tea. And the kidnapped person is left lying on the ground. With each day, the two relentlessly continue to treat their patients. Now Oni have managed to overcome malnutrition, and they recover in the blink of an eye. After a month, the cook relaxes comfortably. Someone mockingly says they're only a weakling. He tries to pretend as if he is not here. Only his opponent has already noticed him. We see how Rin challenges him along with the other kids. Soon the doctor notices that everyone has already recovered. Even the leader of this place thanked him, although deep in his heart he still harbors resentment towards people. Needless to say, the very fact that they talked makes him very happy. At that very moment, the little boy lunged at the boss. Even another little warrior joins in and starts hitting the poor guy. They treat their sensei as if he is a weakling. And as if that wasn't enough, the poor guy can't even use his recovery. Of course, another little demoness never tires of teasing him. She humiliates him at every opportunity, but seems to have relaxed a bit. Poor wounded guy feels that he is being ignored. And the little brat also doesn't give him peace, constantly provoking him in different ways. He is either 12 or 14 years old, and she is a student of Q. At this moment, it occurs to him that something from the past reminds him of Mizuki. Although he is used to the village Oni, the cook understands he needs to leave. You haven't even moved a finger, and that unbearable one is already asking if he did something 18 with her master. This teenager is convinced that Allan turned that rude guy into a slave. Although he likes her, he also has limits. He is afraid of her. Then Rin decides to give the reincarnated one a special lesson. He says that the horned one has a sensitive nape. is simply stunned by this information. Having dropped this bomb, the trickster dashed away. He cannot get rid of the thought, what are his partners doing now? The problem is that his anxiety only grows, and he needs to return home. The village where he is now is completely cut off from the world. In other words, he has only one option left, to ask for help from that great one. And the pervert wonders if it is right to invite her to become his first. Although Ku is incredibly strong, the mark of slavery can ultimately make it so that she cannot be wounded at all. They say that when you first try those 18 things, confidence, emotional resilience come, and girls start paying more attention. Soon, the very thought that he might come to an understanding with a new ally fills him with joy. At that moment, only she herself appears before him. It turns out the mighty had prepared for this moment. He even shuddered upon seeing that the place of their private conversation was on a cliff. Seeing what is happening, the cook begins to feel paranoid. Sylphie and Aura were tormented by anxiety. Their master disappeared. Even the magic wind will not track him, and even Kyubi joins the investigation. She advises even the absence of a trace can become a clue, and this is quite typical for Onus. After all, this race are true masters of infiltration and espionage. The clan explodes with rage over this delay, and the sister calms her down. And no one even utters a word about Rekni being the commander of the children. As if on purpose, Allan is too weak to fully protect himself. The elf woman says that she also feels action must be taken as quickly as possible, but wisely. With each day, the poor girl understood more and more. Her beloved was nowhere to be found. Her despair is so deep that she even cries. Soon she appears in the manager's office. It says that their wait is already beyond the limit. Because with her demonic eyes, the spider can obtain any information. The downside is that the awakening lasts a whole month, and the trickster had permission from her boss. And her sister also tried to use it and was seriously injured. Here the lover begs her ally to find the cook at any cost. From now on, the witch demands that the manager get along with her younger sister. Hearing this, Sylphie completely agrees. As soon as this agreement is made, the prankster decides to help, and with the trickster on their side, they all found out that the elder ended up in a distant village. Soon everyone decided to save him. Now from nowhere in the ONI region, all allies appeared just at the moment when the main character was about to make an 18 proposal. Of course, the girl with horns was impressed that her home was found, but very soon she realizes they came to save him. First, it seems that this calms her down a little. Suddenly, the girl remembers that her friend still wanted to say something. At this moment, the bandit hesitates. He does not know whom to talk to. He stood confused to thank her for the rescue or to frankly confess to the new friend. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind, and she will use this so that even the demoness of temptation begins to take him seriously. Now the reborn invites her to fight against racial discrimination. She simply cannot believe this proposal. She can hardly believe that her savior came up with such an idea. In her imagination, such a proposal from a man is like a proposal of hand and heart. It turned out that the warrior woman was already used to people desiring her as a woman or even wanting her power, but this is something completely different. Soon the rest of the group approaches, and the horned girl grits her teeth and prepares to explain what is going on. And the dark-haired boy quickly greeted his other allies. He said that their delay allowed him to finish what he had to do there. And the cook says that he was getting bored. These words make the bully think that all this was planned by him. She notices that all the girls of different races came from afar to save him. Even the demon himself became interested in that boy. If it weren't for her huge mana reserve, Q would have challenged her to a fight. And the fighter remembers his proposal, until the boss calls her to meet other women. All of this eventually leaves her completely confused. She explains that she is used to this because she is a rare type of Oni called Genki. The dark-haired girl notices sometimes the main character behaves like a child, and at other moments his words sound surprisingly serious and confident. All this leads her to think that he is a man worthy of her services. So the demoness swore loyalty to the main character. The one most surprised in this situation is Sylphie herself. She already begins to notice that there is clearly some agreement between them, and she does not like it at all. After all, this tall girl is just another one who fell for Allan's nonsense. So the elf decides to talk to her, and in the end it is clear that the manager is simply dying of envy until someone calls her. Her master apologizes for making her worry and sincerely thanks her for the rescue. He thinks all this was part of his plan. When the boy seems to dodge the topic, the business administrator begins to reconsider her strategy. No matter how strange his aspirations to end prejudice and hunger seem, he makes others believe in his goals. But what calms her the most is the thought that he is safe. Then Aura says when a man offers the only woman an alliance to end discrimination, it turns out to be nothing other than a marriage proposal. ONI finally explains everything and sincerely admits that she crossed the line. Although she feels sorry, it seems that none of them were offended by what happened. The secretary is impressed that he managed to resolve the whole situation without resorting to restoration. It seems he neither feels nor sees anything. It turned out that Cubai and Neck quickly ran away, and he apparently exceeded her expectations. We see an insecure fool who thinks he has ruined everything with that entity until someone calls. Rin explains that she showed the guests around the house, and the boy says he will prepare dinner. He asked if her rival is coming. His question surprised him. He quickly realized that the little rascal is afraid to be alone, and of course, the prankster immediately avoids this topic. And the village elder thoughtfully considers the situation and invites her to go study abroad. A month passed. Here the newcomers arrive at the main character's base. Each of them is fascinated by what they see. The children are delighted with all these novelties. The biggest problem is that he started acting much less often. Since he disappeared, everyone lives in anxiety. They are glad to see that he is fine, but it seems something is wrong. So now everyone knows what happened to him during that absence thanks to the investigations they conducted. The boy is ashamed he was kidnapped and rescued again, and he feels like a worthless person held captive. The goddess appears and mocks the protagonist's drama. They are animatedly discussing that she works remotely. While the two talk, the creature shows that his friends have already gathered. Now they are organizing a welcome party. They talk and the cook seems to know what the deity wants but avoids the topic. He discovered a hidden function of his power. It reproduces sound within a radius of 3 meters for 9 seconds. He thought of building a giant bath for the girls to bathe in and he could hear them. Then the clever one decides to use this ability to eavesdrop on their conversation. We learn that none of them wants to be his slave anymore. He was stunned by this discovery. See how Aura is lively discussing this with her friends. In their eyes, this determination is visible. But they decide to talk to Sylphie because everyone longs for freedom. Because she wants to be a support for Allan as a woman, not just as a servant. She remembers his ideals are to put an end to hunger and discrimination. These are the traits the king has. They are what make him even more charming. Altogether, they rush after the administrator. They line up preparing to meet her and demand answers regarding this matter. At that moment, the noble lady asks if her friends want to say something to the village leader. Nal says that everyone gathered here to discuss the same things. They understand they have a common goal and all because of the main hero. We see how the local leader reacts to their words. Through the eyes of a woman, the girl already reads the feelings of her companions. Everyone was simply stunned by the cook's skills, so much so that even the businesswoman feels the same as her companions. He wants to accomplish so much that he doesn't even give orders to his employees. Simply put, the chef expects them to take initiative themselves, think independently, and always strive for the best result. To go with him, will and determination are needed, and one of them asks something from the elf. She comes from a rare species. She should never have been enslaved, so she asked, "Have you ever thought about freedom?" And the passionate one assures that she dreams of freedom. She imagines the moment when there is no longer a slave or master between them. She sincerely assures that she would like to stay close to him and make him happy, because she trusts him very much. Even now, somewhere there is a future where the intelligent one strives to be near him. The clever one has a proposal for each of them. Allan is still sad because of what he heard. The deity continues to torment him psychologically, and everyone around behaves as if nothing happened. He sets off to a welcome party for the guests, and he meets with the ones and begins to think about their desire for freedom. See how the poor guy tries to pretend to be happy. At that very moment, he said that working and paying off their debts for the sake of freedom is not a problem at all. And the least he could do for each of them was to congratulate them for everything they had done. He never knew how to show himself relaxed, so he decides to get drunk until someone calls. Tina looks uncertain. She is embarrassed to ask. Soon he notices that the paper in her hand is a contract between the two of them. 2 other tricksters watch what is happening, and the hero thinks they want him to talk about it. And then that fool puts himself in her place and remembers that he always rehearsed how to talk to the boss before quitting. However, Allan wants his subordinate to hurry precisely so that his heart does not hurt too much. She gathers courage and says that she left only 1 coin as a debt. It is her will and determination. The boy does not understand at all what is happening. They all just acted the same way. The surprise at all this is truly sincere. So much so that the poor girl thinks that her boss did not like it. Now they only have a small debt. The protagonist suddenly realized they could all pay him immediately because the amount is simply ridiculously small. Although the amount is tiny, the debt will still remain. In other words, they will continue to work together, but they will all be free. In their spiritual contract, the one he supports will remain in force. At that very moment, Sylphie confirmed his theory. He cannot believe it. All this was planned by his secretary. She admits that her master feels great. Everyone there loves him so much that they do not pay debts just so as not to leave him. They were so impressed that they decided to remain his servants. In other words, everyone there are comrades sharing the same dream. They ardently desire to continue following his worldview. Because the servant's goal is to stay by his side forever. Yubi notices that, besides gathering different races, the main hero also healed a mysterious disease. Fox said maybe it's time to ask him for help. Later, Allan and the goddess ponder the debt situation, and she asks what will happen when the debt is reduced to 1 coin. He looks seriously at his rivals. She claims that they can destroy his race. In other words, the boy feels trapped and completely at their mercy, and the deity thinks that keeping him in check is a good idea. Still, this clever one seems to hide some idea up his sleeve. His trick is ready, it will be used as soon as needed. Cup holds his reserve after all, his position is now almost worthless. Those who moved there are students, they will be paid for growing rice except for the burly one. The crazy idea of this boy is simple to produce a lot of sake, because this madman wants everyone to give in to carnal desires. And the creature becomes even more disappointed. Rice sowing is about to begin. To water the plants, they will use water magic. Soon everyone notices that his face looks stranger than usual. But the women understand that it is just his strange smile, and Ren asks himself if he will ever get used to it. Earth magic gently loosens the soil, preparing it for sowing. Water spells gently nourish each grain, and the sword's agility eases the rice harvest. As always, Allan did absolutely nothing, because his endless tool is useless against the power of earthly charms. But the hero decides to act and orders the burly one to polish the grains. She carries out his order without hesitation. Her job is to help polish the rice from which sake is made. Raz also appears to help them. The Iraqi brought a steam apparatus to heat the rice and make it absorb moisture. Here the cook says that the outside should have a strong crust and inside tender and soft, but Ku has a question. He remembers that even in the imperial capital rice is not sold. But even Oni, who have been growing it for centuries, do not know much about it. Now the transformed one is embarrassed. He does not know what to answer her and recalls everything he studied about it. Then that unbearable one appears and begins to tease him about the reflection, which during his memories missed that ecchi part. Telling the one who annoys him not to bother him, the creator suddenly remembers that they are both standing very close to something. The cunning one warns that he will soon take revenge on her for all her annoyances. He playfully tease him so that he shows his trump card at any moment. She declared that she herself would break the ice, but he did not even think about it. He is called back to the real world, and soon he leaves the conversation with the heavenly being. His mind is a complete mess, and the fool does not know what to do with it. Someone reminds him that none of this matters, only one thing is important: he is their master. It is Sylph who reminds him that they themselves decided to follow him. When the veteran spoke, the warrior bowed his head and apologized, and at that very moment a call saved the main character. It was impressive that she managed to make Kyo retreat. It turns out Rin still wants to know, but the burly man sternly reminds her, if the elf decided, then that's final. After all, the manager is the mind behind the plan of owing 1 coin, and the strategist can remove Allan whenever he wants. In other words, do not dare to do anything against the mafia boss. And that smart guy decides to keep loafing just so as not to change his usual life. Noel helps process rice. Other allies also join in and help regulate the temperature. He enthusiastically tells how, applying his skills, he controlled the grains inside the tank. Ellie brings the necessary water for preparation. The ingredients will soon mix, and the final touches will be added by magic. The thing is, this step requires a lot of experience and subtle intuition. But they do not back down. They will definitely take care of it, because their people also skillfully prepare for this. He sincerely invites everyone to definitely try it as soon as it is ready. Everyone immediately agreed to this proposal. The response even moved him. Soon the banquet begins. Everyone enjoys sake. Girl tastes the new drink, enjoying every sip. Each of them is simply captivated by that flavor. Allan rejoiced upon seeing that his plan worked. Several hours flew by, and the cook slowly wakes up. He drank and suddenly fell asleep, completely unexpectedly. As if something immediately surprises him as soon as he opens his eyes. Because Sylphie is sleeping next to him. Seeing her there, he simply froze in shock. Because the boy does not remember what happened. But what frightens him the most is that she is waking up. And at this very moment, his secretary finally wakes up. He looks at him in the comments. Her boss has finally woken up. Cook at this moment understands absolutely nothing, because his body seems to have shrunk. The goddess decides to show what happened before he became young again. We see how the lover tries the drink and feels her body start to warm up. So much so that she remembers sake can change people. Then the manager remembers she needs to be careful with it. Out of nowhere, the dark-haired guy suddenly lies down on her lap. He feels her softness and gentle scent. Then the elf finally sees what drunkenness leads to and realizes that even recovery won't save him from this. They poured him more several times, and he handles alcohol very badly. She instantly understands, as soon as her boss sobers up, he will die of shame. Now the guy confesses his love to his right hand. She clearly shines with joy upon hearing his words and cannot resist. She hugs him. As if out of nowhere, suddenly something begins to happen. Everyone suddenly noticed their master was shrinking. At that moment the girl hid it and, as if nothing had happened, said that she was just saving his reputation. Because even she herself does not know why she acted that way. After all, the whole trouble is because they were drunk. Tina hesitates. Is it right to act like this? This event worried her so much that she dropped the bottle on the floor. So that Noel quickly restores him. Someone was captivated by her feet. This is Allan, captivated by her charms. Seeing him like that and hearing those words, the child immediately blushed. And the gnome woman did not miss the chance. She showed him her powers to impress. She invites him to her room. She wants to show him even more things. His comment makes her rivals embarrassed. Three argue fiercely over who will stay close to him. Of course, Aura takes the opportunity and grabs him. So the guy made a remark. Her airbags are very soft. She offers her little brother to lay his head on her as if on a pillow. The only obstacle is another elf who does not like this at all. Even Rhea unexpectedly offers to take care of the baby. He is impressed that she sleeps together with a spider right in the web. So much so that the clever one wants to try lying down next to them. He glows with happiness from this answer. At that moment the Iraqi grabbed the baby and ran away. Sudden pressure of wind magic paralyses her. Several elves lined up to stop her. She was watching all this confusion. Little Allan is so cute and she doesn't know at all how to take care of him. Soon someone calls her. The little gentleman compliments her on her hair and assures her that clothes from his country will look simply wonderful on her. And this rascal even asks if the tall girl will wear those clothes for his sake. This question makes her very embarrassed. Hearing him, the swordswoman confirms and a bunch of ketchup bursts from her nose. Rin wonders why her master is so worried, and one of the maids explains that it's normal. Later someone picks him up and carries him to the room. The only thing that stopped their fight was that he simply fell asleep. Because of this, she is forced to take him back to his room. The little boy wakes up and sees that he is being put to bed. Then he calls his friend to join, and although the manager tries to leave, the younger brother stubbornly insists that she stay. He is completely shocked and does not know what to do at all. He dreams of falling asleep next to her. Eventually, she cannot resist and gives in to the little boy's pressure. Returning to the present, the reborn one feels the softness of his cheeks. Soon his companion appears to change clothes and he remembers nothing. Then Shay decides to tell everything for the sake of his dignity. First, the girl takes off his clothes. Soon puts on a more childish outfit sewn by Rhea. He began visiting each of his comrades. He is shocked that the others already know everything. Everyone wishes the village had a good day. So much so that they suddenly start to spoil him. It was clear that all the girls began to treat him much more tenderly. All these caresses bring the transformed one into delight with his new life in the harem. Something is still wrong in his head. Each of them seems to consult on how to take care of him, even to the point that they are ready to create a pact about who will raise him. He believes that this is a way to seal him. And in general, it is easy to extract information from him and solve problems if you turn that unbearable one into a cute one. The fool believes that this was a plan to secure his workplace, and that he will remain in this form for 2 months. Of course, this news makes him terribly angry. Sometimes the reckless one suddenly remembers. Those who showed us this have the right to ask the elders for indecent things. Everyone there hears this question. Each of the girls agrees to take him in their arms because suddenly maternal instincts have awakened in each of them. And of course, he is not at all delighted by this. Even the unbearable goddess suggests doing this. It seems as if someone intends to turn him into a child, and he can only try his best not to let anyone down. His goal is to do everything possible to return to his true self, while simultaneously enjoying this life as their son. Suddenly someone opens the door. He freezes in surprise at what he sees, and a mysterious woman appears from somewhere.